so you heard we pulled that.
On the job.
Looks like we may have public comment.
We'll be out, we've been meeting in the junior high courtyard because it's lovely. So, and then we break up into little committees. Hello.
Sorry, this thing was shut off, so I had to turn it on. I had to figure out how to turn it on. I'm ready. Are you good?
Maybe it needs a battery.
Just to let you know, the battery in this thing keeps dying. Are you all set? Welcome to the Barnstable School Committee meeting for October 4th, 2023. I'll start off with 1.1 District Vision and Core Values. The Barnstable Public Schools educates the whole child by creating a student-centered school culture that addresses students' physical, social, emotional, and academic needs by creating a safe and healthy learning environment in which students are challenged, supported, and engaged. Core values. In Barnstable Public Schools, we value commitment, collaboration, and community. Commitment. We are dedicated to the continuous learning and growth for all. Collaboration. We work together while keeping students' needs at the center of all decision-making. Community. We build strong, respectful partnerships that support student success. I'm now going to move on to 1.2, statement by the chair, video and audio recording of meeting. This school committee meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Seeing nobody. Move on to 2.1, Barnstable High School Peer Mediation Program. Sarah?
Great, thank you. We're joined here tonight with Jonathan Hamelberg and a few students from Barnstable High School who are here to share about the peer mediation program. The program was initiated last year and got underway mid-year. It has been a student-suggested and student-led initiative, and I welcome them to the front to share more about it. Welcome.
Welcome.
How's it going?
How you doing?
I'm John Hamelberg.
Is the green light on the...
Green light is
Okay,
on.
so you're all set then.
Too far away.
Yep,
Sorry.
take it away.
But I'm the coordinator for the peer mediation program. Started last January. We went through our training in February, I want to say. And we really hit the ground running. I'm going to let the guys explain what our program is, but it's definitely made a huge impact in the school, and it's definitely something driven by students, looking out for students, giving them another avenue of support. I'm going to let these guys explain the program first, and then I can run through some of the data that we found over the first, like 6 months about of mediations. So introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Owen Jones. I am a peer mediator, and mediation provides a voluntary way for students to reach their own agreement to help resolve a problem or dispute that they're having. It helps resolve conflicts, and like we said, it's on their terms, not anyone else's. So it means more to them, and it's not like a teacher or a adult telling a kid what to do, which gives more independence. These guys are going to talk about sort of their own experiences with it.
I'm Nikith Walagala. I'm a fellow mediator as well. We found that a lot of the time that mediation works best when we set some actual like ground rules beforehand. So mediations, we don't mediate harassment, bullying, or sexual harassment and like at any point. And we also encourage the students while they're doing mediations to listen to each other, be respectful, and not to interrupt, and not to name call each other. And we found that this has led to a lot more of a positive environment in our school. And we've also felt that between the two students, we've never had a contract that we made between two students be broken, which is tremendous because it means that the process is working and that we're making good progress.
I'm Kyle Cogswell, a fellow mediator as well. I'm just gonna like break down how like not how a mediation flows, but like what the kind of set goals are, I guess. And so mediation mainly we have to start off. So it's voluntary. So we're trying to just have it's self-directed. The students themselves want their goals. They're coming here because it's for them, and we have no input whatsoever. It's all just pretty much their own what they want out of it, pretty much, and seeing what the parties pretty much want. As I just said, it's self-directed. Our job is not even to have our input at all, but pretty much just lead them to what they want this resolution to be. And confidential, yes, so once we step in that room, nobody in the entire school district will know what has happened unless, obviously, like a threat is said, then obviously I have to hand it over to John because that just can't be said. But anything else pretty much will fly. We're very, nothing will pretty much get out of there. And obviously, as I said previously, like we're directing them to what they want, but also we can't really input our own opinions on how this flows. Like in the flow of the mediation, we can't really take sides with any of the parties or anything like that, judge what previous actions have happened and whatnot, and we'll just give them certain questions that'll make them think, oh, all right, this is what's happened, and none of our opinion is really inside of this. And lastly, in our mediation, like we really just want to prevent future conflicts, prevent future like arguments and whatnot, and just try to have a better environment around in our school, pretty much. Let me go over steps. Okay. So when we start off in mediation, we just get them pretty much in the room, and once we start off, introduce ourselves, tell them that, give them a brief description of mediation, what we're going to be able to do for them, how we're not going to really say anything. And then we'll just answer any questions so far, what they have about this. And then first we'll start out, we'll do a joint session. So me and my fellow mediator will have the budding parties, per se, and they'll just tell us what happened. And we'll go one at a time. Don't let them interrupt each other, no name calling or whatnot. But after that, and then we'll just see what's happened in the past so we can prevent what's happening in the future. Take a quick break and just see what type of questions can we get out of them. Oh, would this lead them to possibly really just breaking out and telling us really what happened? Because sometimes these people, they're really like, they're there because they want the conflict to be resolved, but sometimes they just really don't.
They're still mad.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got to help them get to that point.
Yeah. Well, all right, and then after we'll just take them in and we'll do a private session just with one other person, and then they can pretty much say whatever they want because they don't have another person standing right next to them and be like, oh, I didn't say that or anything like that. Obviously, there's no interrupting, but they'll still, it's not like another person over your shoulder. So they can just pretty much freelance spitball anything they want to know. We'll definitely remind them about that. We won't be saying anything to the other party if they don't want. And then later on, we'll come together, and then we'll see from what we got from the private session and even the joint session and see, oh, this is what they want out of the mediation, and then we'll write up an agreement, and we'll just have them on their way if they both agree to it. And then, yeah, that's how
That's how
basic
it works.
mediation flows.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no, so just to like recap, right? So the mediations I feel are really working because it's hard, sometimes as adults to connect to the next generation. And the fact that they can sit down with their peers and learn to walk through a problem using their words, I think it's made a huge difference. From when we first started off till this year, like this year now I have people coming to me consistently. It's just a constant, whether they even want a mediation, to follow up on a mediation, whatever it is, we're really kind of finding our spot as a support for the kids at the school. And we had to build that trust that they were talking about, the confidentiality. And, unless someone threatens to hurt themselves or someone else, we really keep everything in-house. We've had a few instances where, we had to stop mediations and utilize other supports in the school through, adjustment counselors. And this year, those relationships have grown more. The people have moved around. But, we're more connected, more in sync, trying to work more together rather than us all doing our own things separately. We do keep data. A lot of it, we keep in-house. But, for instance, last year I want to say we really started mediations in March because I think we did our training at the end of February. So, from March to the end of the school year, we had 36 mediations with about 78 students. From the data we collected, I had to have a conversation with Liz because we found there was a huge, 80% of the mediations were with our 8th graders, and I was on the opposite end of the building, and I wanted to be closer to them. Also, with the number of mediations, we only had, there was 7 of us. It was a lot to put on these guys' shoulders. Anytime they miss, they have to make up that work. And luckily, I had, 7 solid students that were able to balance that. And it honestly was a lot for them to do. So we're working on our training now, where we're going to build our program to somewhere between 20 to 25 mediators, so it's not as taxing on any of them. But one of the biggest reasons for mediation was just arguments with the potential of violence, because sometimes people just argue and it's just an argument. But I would say the biggest difference we made, there was 19 mediations where people said that they wanted to fight the person that they were now sitting next to, and going through the process, sitting down and talking with their peers. And then after the mediation, they make their contract. It's not a contract with the school, it's a contract with each other. And then I follow up with them. The 3 days go by, I check in, make sure they're still following it. A week goes by, 2 weeks, and Nicketh had said we didn't have a single contract broken from that we have made with any student to this point, knock on, knock on wood. But it's because I honestly think it's, just due to the fact that we're a presence in the school, and they're able to learn how to talk through their problems, which is a skill that a lot of students need. This year we've had 7 mediations with 14 students. I mean, the numbers are trending all towards the same thing. But we have 7 out of 7 came to an agreement. And then last year it was 31 out of the 36 actually made contracts. And if they can't come to a contract at the end, I speak to them for a little bit to make sure that's something that they don't want to do, and we refer back to our traditional, whatever the problem was, I refer them back to their associate principal and still try to support them, but just not through mediation. if you guys had any.
Excellent.
if you guys
Yeah, I'll
had
open
any
it up. Any questions?
No, I think it's
Or
a
any
fabulous job you're doing. 19 and 19, that's pretty good. And the 7 this year is like maybe a fight kind of thing, similar.
Well, the 7 this year, that it's honestly there would probably be more, but we need more mediators. So all of our female mediators graduated last year. We didn't do a spring training.
I'm surprised these 3 good-looking guys, mediators, surprised more females on.
Well, some of the problems, not everyone wants to open up to, even if they're stand-up gentlemen. And,
Sure. Yeah.
to really get that connection. Because we honestly, mediations, we try to keep, if it's between 2 guys, we try to have 2 male mediators, 2
sure.
female, 2
Yeah.
female, just to have that connection.
Well, it sounds great. I thank you guys for doing it.
Andre?
Yeah, for me, just to add on, thank you for doing it. A couple things come to my mind to start. First of all, attitude reflects leadership. Attitude reflects leadership. And this is an example of leadership on the part of our students to move our school in a positive direction. So that is very encouraging. And so I think it's twofold. First of all, the work that, I want to start with the mediators. You guys taking of your time to give back and to help your fellow students to work through things that are troublesome. You're developing skills. As you're using words like contract. You're using words like agreement. These are things that, as you go on, a lawyer or an accountant might use. So, in terms of you're helping the school culture, but then you overseeing these very important interactions, I see you guys developing a skill set and an understanding that's going to serve you well. As you talked about, John, sometimes it's hard for adults to understand because, adults, we think in terms of contracts, in terms of agreements, in terms of, you might have heard of this word, bills, and so you guys are gaining all of that information. I like the fact that you're talking about this is student-driven, and you're helping the students to find their, self-interest. This is self-directed, meaning when we don't see things, and the more that I'm in education, the more I'm recognizing how much I'm learning, things that are under the surface, things that are bubbling up amongst the students, you guys can get on top of that. You guys can work through those things. Very encouraging. I'm going to just a couple more things. So thank you for what you're doing. In terms of the pride, in terms of the feeling, the sentiment that we have for the school, I just think this is wonderful. And when we do have incidents that we have to work through, it's good to know that we have these supports on the ground floor.
Kathy?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank you for volunteering. The students, every time you take something on that's additional, it takes away from something that is not related to school. You have to make up the work and find time to do other things. So thank you for volunteering. It shows a true commitment to the school. It looks hopeful to me that the 8th graders are the students who seem to be taking advantage of the process. I would expect that as they move up through the grades, that could eliminate some of the problems that we've seen in the past. So rather than having seniors taking advantage and leaving our building and then the chaos is still bubbling, to use Andre's word. Could you might not be able to elaborate, but what types of things are in the contract? Just something that is language that shows respect towards each other, or are they specific action items?
Every contract is, obviously it's different. Like the contract itself, the students in conflict actually create the contract. They agree, like our job is to keep it balanced, right? We stay neutral in the situation. And, we had a situation, it was yesterday, and it could be as simple as like, we're not here to make people friends again. We need them to be able to understand each other's side and coexist moving forward without the conflict. Because our goal is to keep them in the classroom instead of like the students yesterday. Maybe in the past it could have been a Saturday school. Maybe it could have been a suspension if it went a different route. But like they agree. I agree not to contact this person, or like I agree not to post on social media, and just. But everything's balanced, so everything one side does, someone does something to balance that out. But to say, there's no two contracts that are the same, but it could just be, we've had people agree to say good morning to each other every morning when they walk by. You know, it's not always a negative thing. There was a few people that were having friend issues, and they wanted to agree to eat lunch together every Wednesday.
So
And
literally.
you know, and
So it's literally whatever works in that situation.
whatever
needs
yeah,
to help the situation. So it's
Yeah.
each one is super individual.
yeah.
So then, are you expecting anybody who participates as students involved in solving a problem, eventually becoming mediators? Do you see that headed down the pike?
I'm always recruiting. So luckily, the 7 students that I have, like these guys, they're all involved in everything: sports,
Yeah.
AP classes, like very strong students in our school. But my program's not meant just for the top students. Some of our students that are in the mediation program that are going to be going through the training, you know, it's more about compassion and being able to listen
Empathy.
and understand. You know, we're trying to get them. They may not be engaged, like these guys are engaged in sports. We have some people engaged in, you know, other aspects, but, you know, some of these kids don't have any connection to the school, and we're trying to give them that. Like, there's a handful that, you know, they may not be A students, but, you know, this might be that thing that could change for them to get them connected to the school, to have that ownership of the school, where, you know, these guys, a connection to the school is they take pride in the fact that they play sports, whether it's football, swimming, hockey, you know, and it's, you know, just to get them involved and meet other people and just expand their opportunity, I guess I would say.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
So I'll make it quick. First of all, thank you guys for everything you do. And I just have one question. I know you said you have 7 now and you're starting the training. How many more are in the training?
Well, the list is, I mean, I think
How many more mediators are you hoping to have?
we're hoping to have between 20 to 25.
But how many with this group coming through doing a training now? Like, is there another group that's being trained now, or is it?
Well, that's what we're working on now. That list of people that want to do it is somewhere around like 50 students.
Oh, wow.
But they're not all going to make it through.
Oh, it's good. So you're going to have your 20
Oh,
peer
easily,
mediators.
easily,
Oh, okay. I
yeah,
kind of thought it was the struggle was like, okay, we have 7 and we're trying to get more to grow. So you're going to have enough kids interested to get your 20 kids, and then.
We didn't start the training yet because, I mean, we also pride ourselves in being diverse.
Yep.
And we needed some more Spanish speakers. And my Brazilian translator, she graduated. It was my daughter. She spoke Portuguese.
Yep, I've met her.
She graduated. So we want to be able to offer the service to any student that goes to the school.
Yep.
So I was using some of our counselors and just trying to find the right fit. And I think we have a good list, and we're gonna try to get the training.
Oh, good. I was just concerned because
next week or
I don't know. I was just concerned that you weren't gonna have enough kids that were interested in mediators. So you're gonna have enough kids that are.
Yeah,
You'll have your 20 kids that are.
Yeah.
How long is the training?
They have to go through 20 hours of training.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and thank you guys very much for
Yeah,
helping. And
thanks again, guys.
everybody who's volunteering. I mean, that's awesome. I remember when we first started talking about the program and was like, yeah, we'll try it. But it sounds like it's a great success to this point. So keep up the good work. And it's successful because of you and your fellow mediators. Because you know what? If you either couldn't be trusted, I mean, trust is a big thing. So if you couldn't be trusted, people aren't going to come talk to you. So trust is a huge thing. And just personality, you got to be able to have people talk to you. And that comfort level is what's going to break down the barriers. So the 7 first obviously worked because it's just a matter of keeping that going. So great job. Keep it going. Excellent. Have a good night. Okay, moving on to 3.1, Student Envoy Report. Welcome. I apologize I'll apologize to you now in public. I got here literally at 7:29, so I didn't get to. I'm 5:29, so I didn't get to meet either one of you. I usually always start off by welcoming you because this is your first meeting. So if you could just tell us a little bit your names and what grades you're in, and then you can have at it.
Hi, I'm Riley Croto. I'm a junior at Barnstable High School.
Hi, I'm Bryn Dennis. I'm also a junior. I'm subbing for Paloma Savignon, who couldn't make it today.
Okay. Excellent.
So firstly, we were hoping to address that we really wanted to applaud how administration handled the situation at the September 22nd football game with the kid bringing the knife and gun. at the next football game, you could clearly see how administration took care in ensuring like safety. You could see more police officers around. There's a police officer station next to the student section. The entrance was changed to make it harder to get in, and more rules were put in to protect our safety, and it really felt like they were investing energy in it and making students feel safe. So that was really, I applaud that.
Yeah, and continuing on football, we're currently undefeated 5-0, and we're honestly having a great season already. And in 2 weeks, we're going to be moving into our homecoming football game on the 20th of October, so that's going to be a big game, and we're all really proud of our football team and excited for that. Volleyball has 3 home games this week, and on Monday, Coach Turco got his 750th win. So just overall, all 4 fall sports are having a standout week season, and we're all really proud of them.
On another note, we believe that more of the school's budget should be targeted to heating and heat regulation. Like the first few days of school were unbearably hot, and it made it hard to transition into the new school year. And then even still in like October and the fall, it's hard going from like one classroom that you're like, it's super hot and you're sweating in, to another where it's freezing. And even in both conditions, it's super hard to focus and making it hard for people to learn.
Okay.
And today we had our first Alice drill of the year. It honestly went fantastically and ended really quickly. And I just feel like it really helps students feel prepared if a situation ever was to happen. So in that case, it would go really smoothly like it did today.
Excellent. Anything else?
No, that's
No?
it. Thank
Okay,
you.
excellent. See, that wasn't too bad, was it?
No.
You did really, really good for the first meeting. Perfect. Good job. Excellent.
you.
We'll see you back next month.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, moving on to 3.2, approve final meeting minutes of the subcommittee for the purposes of completing the evaluation of the school attorney and review goals for 2023-2024, September 6, 2023.
Move to approve the final meeting minutes of the subcommittee for the purpose of completing the evaluation for the school attorney and review of goals for the 2023-2024 year from September 6, 2023.
Having a motion, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Having a motion and a second, is roll call, voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to 3.3, approve school committee meeting minutes for September 6, 2023.
Move to approve school committee meeting minutes for September 6, 2023.
A second.
Having a motion and second, is voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. 3.4, approve school committee workshop meeting minutes for September 6, 2023.
Move to approve school committee workshop meeting minutes for September 6, 2023.
I'll second.
Having a motion and second, is voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously.
Wait a minute,
Whoop.
correction on the date.
Okay.
September 20th.
September 20th was
20th.
the workshop.
Yeah, September 20th, sorry.
So, okay. So I'm going to, that's.
I'll make the motion again.
Yep.
Move to approve school committee workshop meeting minutes for September 20th, 2023.
I'll second.
Having a motion seconded, voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Public comment. Moving on to 3.5, public comment. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and 30 minutes total. There will be no debate or action taken on public comment items. The committee will take items under advisement, or the individual will request an item be placed on a future agenda. The chair will also allow public comment at his discretion during the meeting. Having said that, I will now open up public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing nobody? Okay, I will now close public comment. Moving on to 3.6, school committee comments and subcommittee liaison reports. So I'll open it up to whoever wants to.
Yeah, I'm not even sure this is the right time, but we're talking about whether Joe's going to show up tonight or not. And then I was thinking this is our last school committee meeting before the November election. So I just want to take a moment to recognize Joe Nystrom, who served our towns and schools the last few years. Our school committee is composed of public servants who volunteer their time to provide a critical service for our town and our school system. And Joe stepped up to serve as he wanted Barnstable to be the finest school system it could be. So a few months ago, he took a job as a paramedic in Provincetown, so we haven't seen him lately, but I'd still like to thank him for all the time he did put in to make Barnstable a better place, so I just thank Joe.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right or the next meeting, but
Works for me.
Yeah, okay, good.
You can do it at the next meeting too if you want.
I just may.
Andre, do you have anything? Oh, actually, yeah. So I'm going to have you go. Well, let's have Kathy go, and then I'm going to go after you because I have something a little bit different. But I'm going to, Kathy, you
Okay,
let
I'll be
Kathy
quick.
go, and then you can go.
So the Subcommittee on Policy Revision met on September 22nd and worked on policy EEAB, which is the preschool, kindergarten, and special needs students as it concerns busing. We will be revisiting that as we gather additional input. And so that's been removed from the agenda. It was posted, but we're not ready. That needs a little more discussion. The updated manual sessions, that we have 2 more sections that are being approved, and that finishes the formal review of the policy manual. Sections A through J, have been posted. MASC posts those. So now we're in the review process to make sure that what was posted is actually what was approved. And between the time some of the sections started, there were several changes made afterwards. So it sounds like a simple procedure for someone just to shove them up on the website portal, which is handled through MASC, but it's not. So we're going through and trying to make sure that everything is accurate as per what was approved by school committee. Therefore, we expect that that will take a little bit of time. The next step, last March, MASC did a comprehensive review. Once all the posted policies are there, we'll then take a look through and double check to make sure that anything that was approved prior to that March newsletter coming out on policy is in line with changes that were made from that level. So the next meeting would be Friday, December 8th. We're expecting to have all that work completed, and we'll meet at 1:30 on Friday, December 8th. I'm
Excellent.
happy to say it's done.
Yeah,
And then Cape
congratulations.
Cod Collaborative, I'm still on the Cape Cod Collaborative Board, and their next meeting is Wednesday, October 11th at 5:15 at the Old Osterville Elementary Building.
Excellent. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, Andre, it's all you.
Okay, so again, we are now moving into the journey into October. As I like to say, Barnstable is a large, it's a dynamic, and it's a diverse school district, and so a lot of things that are going on. So this took place at Barnstable, West Barnstable Elementary School, where they had a walk-to-school day recently. Next slide. And so the students were able to walk to get some exercise on their way to school, which is wonderful. You know, get the endorphins going, you know, get yourself moving along. You come into school, you know, you break a sweat, and you feel ready to have a productive school day. So walk to school at Barnstable, West Barnstable Elementary. Next slide. This took place at Barnstable Community Innovation School. Now you can see the students, they're out, they're looking good, that they're ready to go. Next slide. But you can see that we had Crazy Hair Day. Crazy Hair Day at Barnstable Community Innovation School to start the school year off. We have a little color in the hair. You see the student up front, and the teachers are all in on this activity. Next slide. Okay, so students looking good, pigtails there. Next slide. And so our teachers kind of leading the way. Crazy Hair Day.
I like the pencils. I like the pencils.
At Barnstable Community Innovation School to get us going with the 2023-2024 school year. Next slide. This took place at Barnstable United Elementary School under the leadership of Miss Ray and Miss Batson, where they had the Lunar Egg Drop. The Lunar Egg Drop at BUES. Next slide. And you can see the students quite happy if their egg survived that possibly tumultuous landing. Next slide. And so, again, the student in Miss Ray and Miss Batson's class. Next slide. And so the students dressed up, had a good time. This was the Lunar Egg Drop at Barnstable United Elementary School under the leadership, again, of Miss Ray and Miss Batson. Next slide. And so one of the things that I've been encouraged to see is we had, not just at the high school, which I knew about, but we had really across the district family engagement night or family community night, if that's the correct term, in conjunction with the whole back-to-school push. And so this was family night at Barnstable Community Innovation School. Next slide. You can see Principal Wojciechowski. This was family night at Barnstable United Elementary School. Next slide. And then, of course, we had family night at Barnstable High School. I was there. It was a good evening by all. Next slide. And so this was out in the Astro Park. It was good to participate. Family night at the high school surrounding the whole building. Next slide. And we had good weather and just a really good turnout. As I learned this night at the high school, and I believe at our other schools, was teacher-led, you know, and so the educators taking the ownership, leading the way, and just tremendous to start the year off, to get everybody on the same page, to get that critical information, to capitalize on the momentum that we have early on in the journey. Next slide. Okay, so this, let me just pull this up. This was a wonderful event with the local Hyannis Fire Department. Let me get, so Barnstable High School's Introduction to Criminal Justice classes were treated to a week of classroom lectures and interactions with members of the Hyannis Fire Department. Firefighter paramedic Rebecca Tatzel, firefighter paramedic Brendan McDonald, and others instructed the students, and these students were in Mr. Dumas's Introduction to Criminal Justice class. Next slide. And so they got the opportunity to sit in the ambulance, to learn the different procedures. Next slide. Some members of our football team participating. Next slide. And just a great opportunity. I know that, you know, Chairman Judge, you know, worked in the fire service, and Joe currently working as an EMT. So just an opportunity for those students that are thinking about going into criminal justice, but, you know, they may decide on a career in the fire service or as an EMT. We want to thank those members of the Hyannis Fire Department for coming in and for assisting our students. Next slide, please. So this month, it was good to see that one of our former students, this is Devin Harris, who's currently serving in the Navy. Devin's getting ready to ship out for a months-long deployment. But we went back a few years, and this is something for us in the district. Devin graduated in 2017. Then he went on to Norwich and graduated from there, and he's now, as I said, he's a naval officer. But what was distinctive about Devin that many of us knew in the district that we wanted to highlight is Devin Harris did not miss a single day of school in his educational journey. He did not miss a single day of school, starting in kindergarten and until his graduation on June 4th, 2017. And so we wanted to recognize, and there was a nice article in the Cape Cod Times, you know, to achieve perfect attendance for 1 year is quite a feat. But Devin Harris achieved perfect attendance throughout the entirety of his educational career, and now he is serving with distinction in our armed services and in the Navy. And so we have a plaque for Devin that's on display at the high school. And again, and I just want to note that we are looking for all of our students that are doing tremendous and spectacular things in the area of attendance, in the area of academic achievement, in the area of community engagement. And so we're recognizing Devin, but I just want to make it clear that, you know, all of us in the school committee, leadership, we're very interested in our students that are doing things that are spectacular, and identifying and highlighting those things to make it clear how proud we are of you. Final slide. And our student liaisons mentioned this again in terms of overarching and distinctive achievements. Coach Tom Turco celebrating his 750th win at Barnstable High School. It was noted our football team is doing very well. As I understand it, the volleyball team is ranked 4th in their division and is off to a tremendous start. Field hockey, soccer, cross country. Our student athletes are doing tremendous things across the board. But Coach Turco, many of us that have been in the district for some years, again, they're really success beginning in the early 90s, and then I came to the high school in the late 90s, and now that's been some years, and he's still at it. So 750 wins, and I don't see any signs of stopping. So quite a landmark achievement for the coach and for the volleyball team. Thank you.
Andre, is Devin ever coming back to receive that plaque, face to face? And
I talked to his mom.
Yeah.
His mom said he's being deployed. He was going out, I think, the week after the. And he's not. I think she said an 8-month assignment at sea. I think she said. I don't think he's coming back till August.
Well, we can wait him out, but
yeah,
whether he shows up here or something at one of the schools or something. But I mean I read that article that Andre had a lot to do with. And you just have to imagine, this is from, kindergarten, first grade through
all
12.
13 years.
All the reasons to miss school, from doctor's appointments to not feeling great to, I don't know, you didn't do your homework, whatever.
Never, Peter.
This guy never missed a day.
I know. That's insane. It's just, it's insane, but in a good way. It's just like, that's amazing. Like,
it's amazing.
To miss to not miss.
I can see why he's a success in the Navy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I'd just like to, at some point, congratulate this guy face-to-face or some ceremony or something, if he can ever make it back.
That's in the works, and we've been
talking about it. Yep.
We've been partnering
Andre
and
and
working.
we've been talking about it.
So we'd like to do that going forward.
So I have something kind of to curtail, but it's actually one of us. So a lot of you know that Kathy and I are like, I'm the chair and she's the vice chair, but literally we're interswappable. So Kathy decided not to tell me this. So I'm going to call Kathy out, and she's already turning red, I'm sure, to my left. If the camera could zoom in on Kathy's face, I would appreciate that. So a little birdie told me that Kathy was the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Board of Directors recognized Kathy Bent. Massachusetts Association of School Committees, Division 7, All-State School Committee 2023 Award, recognizing her contribution to the Barnstable Public School District, both through her commitment to the role of school committee and through her advocacy and efforts on behalf of the highest quality education opportunities for the children of the district. An award will be presented to Kathy at the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Leadership Award Dinner at the November conference, which for you, the November Massachusetts Association of School Committee Conference is down here in Hyannis the first week of November. But Kathy, you didn't tell me. You thought you were going to get away with it. Well, congratulations. And as I said last month, Kathy, not just Paul, I mean, Kathy literally, like, I'm the chair, but like, it's just, she does an amazing amount of work. She buries me with the amount of work she does. I get to sit there and talk, but she's really the one that does the work and makes me look good and makes us all look good. So, and as I said last month with the policies, she kind of after was like, Mike, really? And, but she does a huge amount for our kids in Barnstable, and having 4 kids go through the school system, she just does, and it's not like she has to be up front. She doesn't want the accolades. She doesn't want anything. That's why she didn't tell me, because she's like embarrassed. I know it. I know Kathy. But the amount of work that she does for our community and our kids in using this venue as a school committee member for literally not only good, but for excellent things that are happening in our community. Honestly, Kathy, this is like minimal compared to what you deserve. And congratulations on the award. You're welcome.
Thank you. I just believe in earning every penny I receive from being
You
on
the
the
chief
school
volunteer.
committee.
Okay, having said that, we'll move on to 3.7, Superintendent's Report. Sarah.
Great, thank you. I've got a number of things for you this evening. The first thing that I want to talk a little bit more about is school security. We had the student envoys earlier talk about some of the changes that were made in advance of the football game. They talked about the drills that were done today at the high school. We also heard from our peer mediators in terms of some proactive things that are happening with respect to relationships. But I also wanted to add, sort of from my seat as superintendent, some of the things that are going on related to school security, because I don't take any of those feelings for granted. I think it's something that we're continuously working towards. We have some really strong practices in place. If you look at some of the best practices suggested by the Massachusetts Chief of Police Association, who came out with a best practice guide within the last year, but we are always looking to continuously improve. And over the past couple of weeks, I've had some conversations, and what I realized is that there are some additional communication opportunities to share some of the things that we're working on so that people are aware of our continuous attention to safety and security in our schools, because the safety of our students and staff is always our top priority. One of the things that I wanted to just raise, because I'm not sure people are aware, are some of the facilities initiatives we have to improve safety and security. You'll hear more later tonight regarding our capital improvement plan, which include some upgrades to paging systems at a number of our schools. We don't want to wait, though, for a big capital project, which would be in the summer. So there's also maintenance planned on our PA systems. We're working on projects to alter our front doors across our schools, to establish doubly locked vestibules with an upgraded kiosk system, which would have a different software. We're currently using the Raptor software so that visitors and guests have to swipe their ID in and get checked, but that requires people to come into the main office. The Navigate software is the same product that we use for safety and security among staff. People will be able to come into a doubly locked vestibule, scan their software at a kiosk, and then be buzzed in a second time through the entryway. This is currently being funded through a capital improvement project that's already been approved, related to replacing all of the doors across the district. And the project is in the design phase and expected, if it needs to go out to bid, by the end of the calendar year. We do a lot of training. You heard about our Alice drill at the high school earlier. We hosted a multi-agency active shooter training on April 7th with the Barnstable Police Department and fire departments. And subsequent to that, I've been collaborating with Hyannis Fire Chief Peter Burke about sending representatives across these agencies to a training in Burlington, Mass. Related to reunification best practices. We held a school safety refresher on the Alice protocol with our district leadership team this summer, with expectations for school trainings in the 23-24 school year, and you heard about the execution of one today at the high school. We always learn from them, and I know that some things did come up at the high school today that we can address and make sure are working properly, including the PA system. We have some rather sophisticated monitoring tools related to incidents that might be potential harm to the school or potential harm to individuals. And it's impossible to know with certainty. I wish I had some data to sort of share with related to their efficacy. We heard some data related to the peer mediators in terms of the number of incidents that physical violence incidents that can be prevented. But what I do know is that these are situations that have the potential to escalate, and these active alerts are being responded to by our administrators and our SROs. Securely is something that we've mentioned before. It monitors all of our school-owned devices in our school-based network. And according to the supervisor of our SROs, there are alerts going off all day long. Sometimes, and many times, this is curriculum related. There may be keywords that are being investigated as part of a health curriculum or a social studies curriculum, but others might be more concerning, particularly related to personal harm, where somebody may want to harm themselves due to mental health. And our school administration is active in investigating and following up, and providing healthcare and resources that may be needed. And if anything were to be potentially criminal, the SROs would certainly become involved. Despite the monitoring process, relationships that are being built, such as the one with the peer mediation program, but that's not the only avenue, is where our adult staff get most of the information related to safety concerns with which to respond. That being said, we also have the Say Something app as our reporting app for the high school, and we encourage our school community to use it. School administrators follow up and SROs intervene if necessary. And again, I would emphasize that if people aren't comfortable speaking up directly to an adult staff member, that they use the Say Something app. We have a sophisticated communication tool among all our faculty and staff through an app called Navigate Prepared. It's on all of our staff phones that can be used to communicate a number of different types of emergencies and is an excellent tool with which to communicate should there an incident arise. We routinely conduct drills for our safety practices, and that includes practice using the app. We have widespread coverage of each campus with security cameras in common areas. As mentioned before, with the Raptor system, soon to be Navigate, we maintain access controls on our locked school buildings. The vape detectors at the high school in the bathrooms not only detect vaping, but can also detect loud noises and groups gathering. And we employ wands at BHS to detect weapons should there be a suspicion that a student have one on their person. As you heard from the students, we debrief incidents and put things in place based on what we learn. To their point, we increased adult supervision. We're doing so in our schools and at school-related activities. And we always remain informed of emerging practices and consider as a safety team with our school resource partners what might be best to implement in our schools. So I could go on and on because I think there's a lot that we're doing and a lot that we're working on, but I wanted to elaborate tonight. As we head back to school, certainly I think safety and security is on all of our minds. So I wanted to take an opportunity to communicate some things that might be lesser known and things that we're working on.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I've got more for the
Your
that's on
student, yeah, for
security
your,
and safety.
okay. You got more for your superintendent report?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm just going to take a sip. I have some data to share with you that I shared last October, with October 1 being an important point in the school year related to enrollment. I wanted to share some preliminary enrollment numbers with you. And then I know the committee has also been interested in knowing about staff turnover and reasons why staff might be turning over. So this is a similar report as to what I shared last year to update you. So in terms of our preliminary numbers, as of October 1st, the district enrollment is 4,889. It is a difference of an add of 51 students compared to last October 1st, and pretty consistent with what we would have projected in the enrollment forecast. We had 336 new students register this summer. In terms of attrition rates, attrition is reflected in the previous year. We need a full year to determine if a student is leaving and not to return. So our attrition rates across all of the grade levels was 8.9%. We highlighted last year the 8th grade timeframe where there's a lot of options and a lot of choice. Students may be going to private schools, they may be going to charter schools, but that's also a time where they may be choosing the vocational technical education. And so those numbers in many districts tend to be higher. And we are seeing similar rates 4-5 that we had with additional options being presented to students. Student enrollment in many places in the Cape is decreasing, which creates more seats for students to depart Barnstable. And as you know, we have some space constraints. And so while we do take school choice students, it can be difficult at times given some of our space concerns that we have, particularly in our elementary schools when where we have most of the school choice requests. Massachusetts public school enrollment took a dive in the pandemic and is slowly making a comeback, but very, very slowly. And this is enrollment through 2023. It does not include these October 1 numbers. We would have to wait until the state certifies all of the October 1 enrollment information to get current year information. But as of the end of 23, this is enrollment across Cape districts. Barnstable is increasing a bit, as is DY. Most of the area schools are decreasing in enrollment, which are kind of narratives and stories we've been hearing about across most school districts, I think, in Massachusetts. There was a national article today related to school enrollment declines, pretty widespread throughout Massachusetts and also the country. As we did last year, when students withdraw, we collect reasons for the withdrawal, and we have two different data sets. One is students who withdraw during the school year, and then students who withdraw during the summer. So students who withdrew last year, the majority, and this is consistent with the year prior, the majority are moving out of town and moving out of the Barnstable district. Most select other as a second choice. And then you can see the numbers related to private schools, school choice, leaving for an extended period of time, or homeschooling. In terms of the summer, similarly, the majority are moving out of town, moving out of the Barnstable district. Slightly higher numbers in the summer, which might be expected as people make different choices for enrollment for the fall related to private school and school choice. Homeschool at 5%, and leaving the district for an extended period at 2%. So that's some preliminary data related to student enrollment. We do keep tabs on this all year long, and we will keep an eye on it as it compares to the forecast that our demographer had done. Asking HR to gather some data related to resignations in advance of this school year. They collected data from March through mid-August. A lot of folks don't fill out the exit form, but for the ones who did, this is the information that we have. And I did hold some exit interviews with some of our faculty and staff as well when they request it. So 6 did not report, 5 reported personal reasons, 7 reported new position, and that's related to another line later below. Some of these new positions reflected shorter commutes, closer to home. That was something that probably was the biggest theme that I had heard this year. And some are medical or left for graduate school, career change, or left their position for student teaching in our own district. So they're still here with us, but resigned their position to take on a new challenge with us. This is data that is a year old. It's from the 21-22 school year. Data from 22-23 won't be posted until next year. But in terms of retention rates, we continue to have higher than the state average retention rates of our teachers. And that's why those numbers are shaded green on the left, those 4 bars. In terms of principals, again, this is related to the 2021 year. So we had several principal positions turnover in that year. We had no principal turnover last year, so that will look different when the year is 24. But the principal data is off to the right. And lastly, we have a graphic showing where our new hires are residing. Of the 60 new hires for this school year, 23% live off Cape, with the majority living in Plymouth. And I would note that compared to last year, that number was 20%. So that's a tick up of 3% living off Cape. We'll see if that's a trend that continues. So those are some figures as we start the year, about kind of attrition coming and going of students and staff. I have a couple other things to share with you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when they select other, they probably have another reason they don't want to share, but I'm curious as to whether or not somebody from HR or someone else follows up, just maybe with a phone call, to see what the other might have been.
Sometimes we do follow up, and sometimes we might know internally on the inside what the story is, but it doesn't get captured in the chart. You're welcome. I have just some information to share with you regarding MCAS. So DESE has been kind of quiet with the pandemic, but there are some curriculum things afoot related to that are coming out of the department. And so I wanted to share with you something that's going to impact Barnstable students this year. And so wanted to put on everybody's radar screen that the department plans to conduct a required field test of a new MCAS grade 8 civics assessment across all schools enrolling grade 8 students. So this will be rolled out at the high school. The test will assess the breadth and depth of the state's grade 8 civics content and practice standards. It has two components, a state-level scored performance task and an end-of-course test. The state-level performance task is supported by a local-level performance task, including group work and discussions to prepare students for the state-level task. Each local and state-level performance task aligns to one of the 7 civics topics from the grade 8 standards, while the end-of-year test covers the breadth of the standards. There is a link about the design of the test, and practice tests are available on the Department of Ed website. And I think we'll be spending some time familiarizing ourselves and getting staff and principals aware and more comfortable with the format of the test. So wanted to share that with you as it currently will impact Barnstable students in this current year. And as other curriculum matters come up from the department impacting Barnstable students, I'll keep you informed. Something fun is coming up to Barnstable High School, sponsored by the National Honor Society. On October 10th, there will be 2 shows of the No Hate Tour. Barnstable High School was one of 3 schools to be chosen this school year in Massachusetts, and it is the first time the tour is coming over the bridge. It is part of the National Honor Society focusing on educating the BHS community about mental health and bullying. The No Hate High School Tour, now in its 23rd year, is an impactful education program using the energy and excitement of action sports to deliver critical bullying prevention tools, techniques, and information to students in a relatable peer-to-peer manner. The program features top BMX stars that teens admire performing high-energy action sports on campus while speaking to students about their own experiences with bullying, overcoming obstacles, being an ally, inclusion, kindness, surrounding yourself with positive influences, problem solving, mental health awareness, and other important subjects that resonate with teens. So thank you to our National Honor Society leadership for bringing that to BHS. And then I wanted to conclude with some academic accolades that Principal Friedman shared in her student update. Congratulations to Camille Rodriguez and Ava Bullock. They developed a video titled Vulnerable Users, which has been selected as a top 3 video in the junior-senior category for the 2023 Mass Department of Transportation Safe Streets Smart Trips High School Video Contest. They're attending a conference this week with the Acting Secretary and CEO of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Secretary Tibbetts Nutt. Also, congratulations to Julia Magales, Kaylee Dvorak, and Philip Ribeiro. They've been awarded the National Hispanic Recognition Award from the College Board. The College Board recognizes, through national recognition programs, the College Board National Recognition Programs award academic honors to underrepresented students, including the National Hispanic Recognition Program. Students who take eligible administrations of the PSAT, PSAT 10, or AP exams are considered for awards. So congratulations to our 3 high school students. And that is what I have for you tonight.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll open it up for questions. Any questions, comments? Andre?
Yes, so that was comprehensive. You covered a number of things. You started with school safety, and I just wanted to ask, I was interested in the Say Something app, which is, could you explain that further? Because the concept being that, students that might not feel comfortable going to another peer or to a staff member, when they see things that are concerning to them. There's an app that they can then send this message that gets into our data stream that we can respond to these. Again, it seems to be another avenue for us to be vigilant for things that are concerning, that may be substantial, or they may be not substantial. So is that am I getting that? Would say something?
Absolutely. It's a way for anonymous reporting, and they can report from their phone or a Chromebook. There's a web browser piece. They can also do it from their phone, and there are signs around the school to make it accessible. And there's a service kind of monitoring behind the scenes, and then administrators get notified, including myself, the principals, the associate principals, Kristen Harmon, and we can also follow online what the disposition of the situation is, who's taking it on and who's responding to it. And I think that it is an important tool that we would encourage students to use, especially if they're not feeling quite like they can share something directly. So we do have the Say Something app.
Yes, and so, you noted when you began that the safety and security of our staff and students is paramount, chief, in the district. And thank you, Dr. Ahern, because the depth that you went into in terms of what's going on, to ensure that, I'll be going back. You said quite a bit, and there's a lot that we're doing that the general public might not be aware. And there are things that we are going to continue to do in terms of the vestibules and in terms of, again, to ensure that. So thank you for that comprehensive report in terms of safety and the other priorities.
Excellent. Anybody else? No? Seeing nobody? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Moving on to 3.8, Assistant Superintendent Report. Kristen.
Thank you. So I have a couple quick announcements. The College Fair at Barnstable High School. So the 58th annual All Cape College Day Fair is scheduled for Wednesday, October 18th, 2023, from 3:30 to 5:30 at Barnstable High School. This event is open to the public. There is no cost to attend. There'll be around 150 colleges and universities represented at this event. It does represent one of the biggest college fairs in the area, and students are encouraged to pre-register at strivefair.com in advance of the college fair. So they have QR codes that can really track the schools that students are visiting, and then they'll get, makes it a two-way conversation or two-way flow of communication. So after a student engages with the college, they can use the QR code, and then the college will follow up with them later. So it's amazing. It's amazing how many colleges are there. It's amazing how many people attend. But it's in the field house at the high school. October 18th, 3:30 to 5:30. Each year, so the Cobb Grant, each year the Enoch Cobb Grant provides funds to our schools to support and enhance Barnstable Public Schools students' learning experiences. Through the generosity of the Cobb Fund, Barnstable has been able to provide a variety of interesting and exciting learning experiences for students. This year's allocation from the Enoch Cobb Grant is $289,000, $289,454. This is split across Barnstable's 9 schools in a prorated fashion. This allocation represents an increase of almost $49,000 over last year's allocation. It's always exciting to see the range of creative proposals that teachers put forward. All of the principals have shared the process, the application, and the requests are already coming in that principals will review with their school councils. So it's always really fun. I think the creativity, it is off the charts what people are requesting, really all with that lens of making these great experiences for students that are tied to the curriculum. The Gleam Grant, I haven't spoken about the Gleam Grant in a little while, so I will be providing you with regular updates regarding the Gleam Grant. If you recall, that is growing literacy equity across Massachusetts. It's a grant that we applied for last winter. We were awarded it in the spring. We started the work last year, working with our consultants on a needs assessment. So this, as we start getting deeper into the work of identifying, piloting, and ultimately selecting high-quality instructional materials for K-5 literacy, I will be making sure that you are updated regularly. Some of our most recent and also our upcoming grant activities include, so we continue to meet weekly with our consultants from TNTP, which is the New Teacher Project. So they've been supporting us from the start. In September, they provided the first of a 3-part series of professional development series on evidence-based instructional practices in literacy. The second and third PD sessions will take place during the November and February half-days. As part of the ongoing information gathering process, K-5 principals are sending out surveys to families. This was also done in the spring, but just trying to make sure that we are casting a wide net. These surveys will help us to better understand their experience as a parent of a BPS student relative to K-5 literacy. The surveys have been translated to ensure that we're making this accessible to all families. Additionally, families will have an opportunity to participate in focus groups that will be facilitated by TNTP, our consultants. The focus groups will be virtual and are scheduled to occur towards the end of October and into early November. And finally, with the GLEAM grant, we're getting ready to kick off our GLEAM team. The GLEAM team will consist of K-5 leadership, directors, and staff representatives, classroom teachers, special education, and ESL teachers. So the group will be meeting twice a month to start. We will phase down to once a month, but as we start to outline our review process, develop criteria for reviewing instructional materials, identify curricular resources to field test, and establish a communication system around the process and progress to ensure transparency across all stakeholders, staff, families, school committee. So as we get deeper into the process, the GLEAM team will then just start to meet monthly to monitor progress, synthesize the feedback and of the pilot experience, and ultimately make the recommendation for instructional materials based on this range of input. So a lot more to come. I will be really busy with it, but it's really exciting, and I can't say enough about the support that we have from our consultants, really bringing a wealth of knowledge and really helping us navigate the process. And then finally, as a reminder, we have a full day of professional development on Friday, October 6th. So that means our students will have a 4-day weekend, while staff will be engaging in professional development sessions that are being offered through the district or through the collaborative. Also, as a reminder, Monday's a holiday, so that's the 4-day weekend. We have 49 sessions being offered by staff for staff. The topics range from technology, Canva, Imagine Learning, iPads, to supporting our diverse students, such titles as Introduction to Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Students, Enhancing Co-Teaching Practices, Trauma's Impact on Student Learning, and so much more. Staff also had access to 30 or so offerings through the collaborative. I feel very confident there truly is something for everyone between our program and the collaborative. Registration closed last week, and the past few days have been spent verifying rosters, assigning rooms, confirming arrangements with presenters. As of noon today, all staff participating in one of our in-district sessions should have received an email from their session presenter with all the need-to-know information to be prepared for their session on Friday, or sessions on Friday. Some are half-day, so they'll sign up for 2 half-days or a full day. And I would just like to recognize all of the work of our staff. The professional development day could not happen without our amazing staff presenters. And I would like to also acknowledge the work of Shameen Clegg, my assistant, and what she's done to pull all of this together. So, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Kristen. Moving on to old business, 4.1, approve school committee policies in section K, community relations.
So this is a second read with a vote for approval. I did not receive any feedback. Peter, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay, so I would move to approve school committee policies in section K, community relations.
I'll second.
Having a motion and seconded, voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. 4.2, approve school committee policies in section L, education agency relations.
And again, I did not receive any feedback on section L.
I did not.
Okay, so I would move to approve school committee policies in section L, education agency relations.
I'll second.
Having a motion and seconded, voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to new business, 5.1, approve Barnstable High School field trip to Taiwan and Hong Kong for February 17th through the 27th of 2024. So I will turn this over to Bo Wu. You come on down. Hi. Welcome.
Thank you. I brought my two Chinese National Honor Society members who are also in my Chinese 4 level class. And the last time I went to China was 2017, and it was a fantastic trip. We brought 14 students, range from 9th grade to senior, and we collaborated with a travel agency, which is an education agency actually in China. They do a lot of cultural exchange programs and everything. It was very successful. We visited schools in Beijing, in Xi'an, and students learned so much. They did volunteer work as well, teaching English over there. They even visited a farmhouse to do some very original farming. So last time, the experience was phenomenal. That's why we decided to do another trip in 2020 when the younger ones grew up. But right before we can go in April, the COVID broke out, so we cut off. So fortunately, our partner, who is also Harvest Education, did a fantastic job, and they refund 100% for that instance. So I think my student didn't have any financial loss at all. So this time it has been 3 years, and in our department, our French teacher have gone, our Italian teacher, our Latin program has gone. So I feel like we need to catch up. So, and my students have been earning and asking me almost every day, when are we going? So originally, we were considered of China as, of course, mainland China as destination, but because the war between Ukraine and the Russia, a lot of air flights restriction. We used to have 170 flights between United States and mainland China per week. Now it's only down to like 30 something. So the restrictive flights have prevented the price has gone up. So I want to wait a little longer. However, these are juniors and seniors. They can't wait. They just keep telling me every day how much they want to go. So we talked to Harvest Education, and they provided a great travel proposal to us, including 9 days. And we decided to go around February vacation because it's around Chinese New Year. So even though we're gonna try to miss that a little bit for like a week because the price, everything consideration. However, because the holiday lasts about like at least the entire month, pretty much. So we want students to experience that immersion environment and practicing language. I think the most important is during the COVID year, they kind of lost connection with a lot of people as well, like that face-to-face interactions. So this time we're gonna try to visit schools, of course, as our first purpose to interact with the local high school students in Taiwan. We're going to visit Danjiang University and Lingnan University in Hong Kong to take a look what's other options out there and what their college students are doing and in terms of education world. So we're gonna do a lot of interactive activities during the trip, like scavenger hunt, ask students to take a subway by reading the signs themselves, stuff like that. So that's how we designed. And I'm going to leave the time to Shelby and Colin.
Hi, I'm Shelby Lacasio. I'm the vice president of Chinese Honor Society. I really want to go to Taiwan because during my 8th grade and freshman year was COVID. So we lost a lot of time interacting with people, meeting Chinese people and going on field trips to different places because of all the restrictions. And just I think it'd be a really good experience to get that real life speaking to Chinese people, actual people that live there, and just getting that full experience in Taiwan would really help make up for what we lost during COVID. And Colin, do you want to add anything?
sorry, wait. Is this working?
Yeah,
okay.
you're all set. You're good.
Thank
There you go.
Sorry. Pretty much what she said. During the 8th and ninth grade, for us at least, we've been stuck online talking to people through just technology. We can't, especially with learning, even when we were in person, we couldn't figure out the opinion, which is like, phonetics, sorry. But it brought us down to probably 3rd level Chinese, even though we're in Chinese 4. So I think that this trip would like really be able to bring us up to where we should be before we had out of the program. But, yeah.
Yes. So I didn't send a picture ahead of time, but I did bring a copy of all the students were at the foot of Great Wall last time. It was great. So hopefully we can get approval, and I attach all the insurance information. And the thing is also, it depends on the enrollment and confirmation. The dates will be around the February vacation, and we'll try to minimize the school days that they will miss because they're junior, seniors, and I try to make them, stay in school as much as possible. So hopefully we can get approval for this trip. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Or Sarah, do you have anything to? Can I just ask a question? I know there was a question about the insurance with Dave Anthony. Is that?
I believe Dave is still reviewing it. Is that
Is
right,
that-
Jane?
So because it's out of country, there are a lot more considerations.
Yeah, like they all are, right?
State
right.
Department reports and things like that. So it's going to take a lot of work to try to make sure that if the children are allowed to go out of the country, that it's safe and there aren't any problems. So there's a lot that goes into approval for out-of-country trips. And one of the suggestions was that for trips in the future, that for out-of-country, they're brought forward a year in advance because of the work that Dave
Needs
has
to be
do.
done.
And,
Okay.
But again, we're going to have to work on that.
Right. That's not their trip. That's just in
No,
general for
no.
all of.
And I'm sure he'll have questions for you, and I might have some questions for you about certain things, but we can.
We can approve it
work on
tonight based on
Yeah.
all of that being ironed out behind the scenes
Right.
as we go forward.
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're ready for collaborate with our educational agency and answer any question
And
about
I'll
logistics.
reach out to you, and we can.
Yeah.
Three of us work on it.
Absolutely.
So I just have one other question. So you said that back in 2020, it was the Harvest. So you're using the same exact
It's
company.
the same company.
So the ones that like stood by it and gave the kids back all their 100%.
Yeah.
You were like, why would I go somewhere else? I'm going back to the same company.
And also the experience they brought us, they had a trip manager with us.
Is it the
also.
same one you used in 2017?
yes,
Okay, so you've used this company for all of your trips.
Yes, they actually had a trip manager with us 24/7.
Oh,
so she
cool.
stayed with us, and with all the logistics she handled with that,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was very feel like safe, and all the programs she arranged. The schools we visited, I wish I had sent the videos or pictures. It's great. I was surprised actually. The feedback I got from a lot of kids, even though years later, it's not it's great that they got on Great Wall and eat ice cream in the middle of Great Wall. But I think the most thing they remember is to talk with a teenager who live in China, and they're going to find how different they are, but how similar they are as well, that they play, they sing karaoke together, or they sing a band. And I had a student who performed Kung Fu for them, and they love it, and they sing, U2 band song for us, and we were surprised how they know that. So it was part of that that's
Right.
amazing.
It's the culture part of it.
Exactly.
As much as the education part.
Exactly. So this is why we really want to do this trip this time.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Peter, I'll start with you.
No, it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I'd be all for it if we can get the logistics done. Yeah, and they celebrate New Year's for about a month.
Yes, almost 15.
They know how to celebrate New Year's. Yeah.
It's a long time.
I
And,
guess, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we got to do it this year, do the dragon thing or cafeteria again.
Andre?
Yeah, just likewise, add to that, Peter, we've worked together, as you've been in the district, and the desire for the students to do this, and recognizing that for some years, not just the ability not to have trips, but how their education has been impacted. So this is very positive.
Thank you.
Kathy?
So you provided a roster, so you're expecting 9 students? Or
I
are you
am
opening it
expecting
up?
9. However, they're seniors who are in level 2. They're seniors who are in level 3. So first of all, I open to students who have taken completely 4 years. And I have like 4 or 3 seniors as now, but they took Chinese since they were 8th grade. Then I open up to my current Chinese for students. Then I go down. But there are some seniors in level 2 classes, and they showed very enthusiasm. They want to go, but unfortunately they didn't take Chinese since they were 9th grade. So I feel like if that's the thing, I'll try my best to find a second chaperone that fits the trip, and possibly will bring 12 to 13 if that's the way it is, if I have a lot of seniors showing the willingness to go.
Thank you.
So I'll go last. I can't say enough about you. You know that. Bo Wu is an unbelievable teacher. My son had 4 years of Mandarin with Bo Wu. He went and took 4 years at college and ended up with a minor in Mandarin. And 3 of the 4 years in college were a review because of what she did. Honestly, you guys don't know how lucky you are to have her as a teacher. It's just unbelievable. And unfortunately, he lost out on the trip. He lost out in high school, and then when he was going to go abroad for a semester abroad in college, and unfortunately, COVID was still happening, and he couldn't go away for that either. But so I'm 1,000% behind this. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if you say it's what's best for our kids, I am 1,000% behind with what you say, because I know what you've done for my son, and it's just, you're an amazing teacher. So yes, absolutely. So I will take a motion.
Move to approve a Barnstable High School field trip to Taiwan and Hong Kong on February 17 through 27, 2024, pending approval of proper insurance coverage.
I'll second.
Having a motion seconded is it's a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations. Moving on to 5.2, food services to St. John Paul II School. So, Sarah, do you want to kind of preface it?
I can preface it, sure. We're joined here this evening by Dave Badeau, our Director of Food Services, along with Nancy Dias from the Abbey Group. We're also joined by Phil Vanderbrink. Phil is from St. John Paul II. It is pretty common across the Commonwealth for public school districts to provide food services extending outside of their kind of formal domain in terms of the public district, whether it be to a private school or sometimes a senior center in town. And there is a burgeoning collaboration with St. John Paul II between our food services and the school in order to provide food to students there. But we wanted to make sure that we have the authority and blessing of the school committee, and so they have a proposal to share with you tonight to talk more about how that would be put together and the benefits of the mutual collaboration. So I'll turn that over to Dave.
Perfect, thank you. We have a PowerPoint. Good evening, Dave Badeau. I'm the Director of Food Service with Barnstable Public Schools, and thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Nancy with the Abbey Group, Phil with the Catholic Schools. I know Phil met quite a few of you. I'm here tonight to propose the addition of 2 additional sites for the Barnstable Public Schools food service program. Obviously, we want to collaborate with St. John Paul II School, his 2 schools over there. Next slide. Currently, St. John has 2 locations over there. We have a prep school, which is 5 through 8. There's 173 students over there. The high school is 261 students. Both the locations are right next to each other. They're right down the street. I'm sure everybody's aware of that. Next slide. Currently, there is no food service for the children over there, but they've tried. They've had many different options over there, but it's been, from my understanding, it's been inconsistent. It's been expensive for the parents and the students. So they've really tried to find something that's more consistent, and that's where we step in. Next. Barnstable Public Schools will take on 2 locations under the National School Lunch Program, which will be 100% reimbursable for the district. As everybody knows, the benefits to these is meeting children's nutritional needs leads to a better learning environment. Students will be offered both breakfast and lunch, will be consistent for food service programs for the students. Meals will be offered at no cost for students or parents. We're going to build a relationship with the Catholic schools, and based on our budget that we prepared, it will be a positive financial decision. Next slide. Currently, St. John Paul II facility has a high school that has a fully operational kitchen. Our plan is to staff with 2 kitchen employees over there. The prep school, the meals are going to be transported. That's going to be the responsibility of St. John Paul. Barnstable Public Schools will not be responsible for any equipment repairs unless it's something that we do own, or any other costs associated to facilities such as electric or gas or anything else. Next slide. Phil did a survey a couple months back when we originally were speaking, and he had about 170 responses, and about a little over 87% of those folks said that they are interested in participating with the program. As you can see, it's a very small percentage that says either no or not decided. So it appears that there's many parents and students, and I believe it was mostly students or parents that.
This was a parent survey that was done. We didn't want to mention it to students if it didn't get approved.
Okay, so it was mostly by parents. And that number might seem kind of high, but believe it or not, that seems to be the trend in a lot of the Catholic schools when they do merge into a public school system. So I think it's a pretty true number. Next slide. Our current food service provider, the Abbey Group, will oversee this location as they do all the other locations. Next slide. What we've done so far, we've done a lot of the legwork already. We've met with the St. John Paul's team and toured the facilities several times. I've already spoke with our DESE consultant. I had a meeting and approval through DESE. We've met with the Barnstable Board of Health. They toured the facility. We've met with our Barnstable legal team. We're still working with Jane right now and the team over there. It's one more thing that they've got on their agenda. And I do have the acceptance from the Abbey Group. That was one of DESE's requirements. They wanted to make sure that the Abbey Group didn't have any pushback, and they don't. So, next slide. With the Barnstable Public Schools School Committee acceptance, we can create a partnership with St. John Paul as early as November 2023. We're pretty much ready to go. There's a couple small pieces of equipment that we're working on putting together, but we're in a position where we can start November 2023, providing that all these other small pieces are put together. Next slide. I think that's it. Any questions?
So, any questions?
Yeah. Did you say to the there'd be no charge to the students for this?
That's correct. It's going to fall into the National School Lunch Program. They'll have to follow the same standards that we do throughout the district, and it will be fully reimbursable.
It's fully. So, who is actually paying for these lunches to St. John Paul's School?
DESE, everything is reimbursable. So what I'll do?
Yeah, I know that it's reimbursed, but somebody's paying for it.
It's funded by the feds and the state.
So the taxpayers are paying for this.
That's correct.
And this is for a private school.
That's correct.
Yeah. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, we don't pay that. There's a tuition, I assume, with St. John Paul, and the taxpayers don't pay for that. But you're asking us to pay for their lunches, if I understand this correct.
Well, it would be funded through federal and state funds, which are
You're asking the taxpayers to pay for the lunches, but we don't ask the taxpayers to pay for the tuition. Correct?
That would be.
Okay. Just so I understand.
Yep.
Yeah, just again, add what Peter is saying, that's what I need to work out for myself in terms of it's going to be financially beneficial, but there's going to be the reimbursement. Can you just explain that, how that works?
Okay, so what happens every month, I'll put in a claim for the meals that were served over in those two locations, and what will end up happening is we will get reimbursement from the state and the feds based on the meals that are served. When we created a budget with the Abbey Group, and it was very conservative, and financially the district, it would be a profitable move for us to move in that direction. And all those funds would go right back to Barnstable Public Schools. It wouldn't go back to the Catholic schools. But that's how we run the program right now. Being under the National School Lunch Program, everything is federally and state reimbursed.
Yeah, understood. And just this, I realize the work that has been done in Barnstable, to make sure that our students, have access to nutrition free of charge through the pandemic, and that's continued, and that's a point of pride for us. And, for me, I think what Peter had alluded to, but I want students to have nutritional access, and if this is something that's cost neutral or cost beneficial for us, and students are getting their resources, that's wonderful. I think what we'll talk a little bit more about, and I don't have an issue with it in terms of building the partnership, between the Catholic and the public schools and within the community. I'm for that, all of those things collaboratively. That's very good. The fine line, and we want to work together, but then, superintendent can maybe speak further about this. We're also trying to put our kind of best foot forward as a district and champion, that, essentially, with school choice, we want more students. We want to, make ourselves the best option and point of pride. So there is a subtle competition between schools. I don't think that's any secret, in terms of providing the best opportunity. And that's, but at the same time, if you've done your due diligence, and thank you for that. I don't have any problem with partnering and working together to make sure that students have the nutritional resources so they can be the best students. But I just think we'll talk a little bit more about just that fine line between there is a subtle competition that's in play also.
Can I speak to, outside of the competition piece? We do operate the food service program over at Cape Cod Collaborative, and we used to operate it over at Waypoint, but Waypoint moved over to DY. But we are overseeing Cape Cod Collaborative right now still also.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Kathy?
So, in a way, I equate this partnership with the Catholic schools similar to how the law does not prevent us from doing this, otherwise it wouldn't be here. And I equate it along the same lines as how special education is handled. Students that reside in Barnstable and our parents are paying taxes who live in Barnstable, they do choose to go to a private school, they do pay tuition, but when it comes to fulfilling basic needs that most students or all students are guaranteed to under the law and under the schools, I see this as another partnership. My only question would be, what happens if we don't approve this? Are you still struggling to find healthy meals for students, and you could possibly, even though they pay tuition, do you have some students who are assisted by other means that struggle for having food?
Yes, according to our data, about 10% of our population, were we to actually apply for the free and reduced lunch program, would fall under that. We do have people that help with our tuition funding, and we do work with the public school district in terms of title funding and federal funding as well. But we do have a need in our community. We do have families that are just, a lot of times they're seeking smaller class sizes because for whatever reason, we do not have an exclusionary contract. We have kids that are non-Catholic, non-religious, and multiple religious backgrounds. we're not exclusionary. We are a community school, and we want to see this area attract more families and build up our community further. So we're looking for more partnership opportunities. I moved here myself from a non-Catholic school, moved to Cape Cod with my 2 children as well. And I want to actually be able to partner with the public schools and other community organizations so that we have a strong, solid foundation to attract more families here. Because as you noticed with the demographics that you presented, Sarah, there is a decline, but I want to actually help to reverse that trend of the population, because we're getting an older population, but we need more community members to step up and serve those population too. And we need to attract more families here. And I want to build our school stronger, not to be in competition directly, but to be in competition with attracting people here versus other states, for example. I came to this state seeing a better future for my kids. And that's what I would like to see. And plus, I'm being a little selfish. My kids hate the sandwiches I make for them. So there is no other option. We've reached out to other things. The only group that would actually come forward and do something this year, the cost per lunch per day would be $12. And I can't afford that. And I know most of our families can't. And we do have kids at our school on full financial aid. Kids that have come from more difficult backgrounds that need that. Some kids need a smaller environment to thrive. And I want to take these kids that want to thrive and be able to build something with them so that they stay in our community. They feel that resources are here and that we are working with our public schools to not, it's not about my school or your school, it's about our kids and to try to build that
That's
family.
what I was going to say. So if I could kind of chime in. So Peter, you brought up something really interesting, and I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of sitting over here kind of like fighting with myself. So first of all, my background, as everybody knows, is a firefighter and a paramedic, and I'm not from here. I'm from the city. And I didn't care what member of the gang was part of when he got shot. I cared about that he was a human being, and he was a kid, most likely. So I don't care if it's our school, their school, they're kids that are hungry, so that's simple. As far as taxpayers, so I get what you're saying, but so if it's federal and state, right, so it's not our local taxes. First of all, some of your students are Barnstable residents, so they pay real estate taxes in Barnstable. They pay state taxes to the Massachusetts, and they pay federal taxes too. And that's not just Barnstable residents. So every other student that you don't have any students coming from out of state. They're all local Cape Cod kids, most likely, or maybe just over the bridge, right? So all of those parents pay state taxes, which is what Dave's saying the money's coming from. So all those people are getting their taxpayers back. They're paying tuition for his school, and right now they're also paying taxes for whatever town they live in for those schools, and they're not even using them. We have Barnstable kids that aren't in Barnstable schools, but their parents are still paying their taxes for our budget. So they're paying, like, that's a lot of money. So my thing is, but it's not on the local level. It's only state and federal money that's being used for this, correct, Dave? So all of those kids' parents are paying Massachusetts state income taxes, and all of those kids' parents are paying federal. So those kids' parents are paying for this program just like the Barnstable, just like my kids who go to the Barnstable schools are paying for it. And not only that, but the people that live in Barnstable who are paying local taxes but aren't using our schools are at least getting the money back from this program back into our schools. So, like, they're paying local taxes to us, but this money, and I would agree with you if the money, the excess money was going back to their school, but what are you thinking, Dave, of a surplus? Well, say it's X amount. I don't want you to answer that because you know what? Forget I even said that. But so if it's X amount, I'm going to give a number of $10,000 as an even number. So if we make a surplus of 10 grand this year partnering with this school, so maybe we can put on another aide in a classroom. Maybe we can have somebody who's 0.5 para go up to 1 for our budget next year because we have an extra $10,000 in our budget. So we as a school system, and I agree with due diligence for our taxpayers, but we're actually going to be making money on this partnership for our taxpayers. So that's just where I'm kind of thinking. I kind of want to have more of a conversation because I'm kind of.
All right, but what is the profit we'll be making?
Conservatively, for the year, about a little over $33,000.
And where does that money go?
It goes into my bank account, not my personal bank account.
It goes into the schools.
It goes into the revolving account for the food service department.
So it goes to the food service department.
That's correct.
Barnstable Public Schools.
Correct. That's correct.
School.
That would buy 3 convection ovens.
Right. You were talking about an assistant or something.
Right. Okay. So it doesn't go into the general fund. I thought it went into the general fund, but it doesn't. It goes into the Barnstable Public Schools revolving fund for
cafeteria tables, for ovens, for
Right.
remodel of a kitchen.
That eventually, I get it, that eventually you don't have to buy, because of this profit. But it's just eating at me that not so long ago, you guys were getting lunches at Papagino's or New England Pizza. They were charging you.
Historically, they were charging a lot less, and this is before my time. There hasn't been a food service program that's been in place at that school. I started here July 1st, and there hasn't been a food service program at the high school for at least 4 or 5 years. Our families could no longer afford it. It used to be basically, when they charged at the public school, it would be about equivalent. They would give a special school rate.
Mm-hmm.
And when these other companies were bought out by other large organizations, they started charging more and more, and we just couldn't, our families couldn't afford it. We're not what I would call a wealthy school by any stretch of the imagination. We don't have that long of a history, but what we do have are a lot of families that want to move here, and they're looking at different educational opportunities for their kids, much in the same way they might look at a charter school or other schools.
And I went to a public high school. I went to a Catholic high school in Worcester, and the reason I went there is because it was Wachusett, and it was 400 kids per class, and I wanted to go to a smaller class sizes. It was like 10 kids versus, matter of fact, to the point where now the school shut down a few years ago, but it was like 10 kids in a class versus 300. I think Wachusett's probably about 375, 400, and I wanted to go to and my parents were not wealthy. We were on food stamps at one point, so we weren't a wealthy family by any means, and I actually kind of went for free. I went for very little because it was all prorated, so.
We still continue that, and just a little bit of my background. My father was also a committee member, chair of a public high school, and I am a public school graduate myself. So I understand the differences, and even where I grew up, my little teeny tiny school community, the public schools partnered with the private schools to offer in the state of Michigan a lot more opportunities for the private school kids too.
Kathy?
Not a lot more, but to boost their curriculum.
Peter, I understand exactly where you're coming from. However, if the state, if DESE didn't believe that this was an appropriate use of taxpayer money, they would not allow it to happen. And so given the fact that these types of partnerships are accepted by the state, it must fall within the guidelines of being an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars, be them state dollars or federal dollars. And so that's the
only thing I'd say about it, you have a lot more faith in DESE than I do.
That's kind of what I was thinking, to be honest with
you. A lot.
Just because they say it's good doesn't mean it's good.
That's right.
Hey, good. I said allowable. Allowable.
Yeah.
I agree with Peter on that one.
I don't. No, I know where you're coming from with that, but I just mean if they didn't feel that it was an appropriate measure, and you could take that up with the state and the feds. But we did feed any child during COVID.
Well, that's the
and
other
we
thing.
didn't even check
Over
to
the
see
summer,
if they were from our area. Anybody who walked in under the age of 18 or 18 or younger was appropriately fed.
Now, I think I remember speaking to Dave, was it last year? I forget, that time flies, where eventually all meals in all the schools are free.
Yeah, yep.
And that inherently didn't make sense to me, especially if someone has the opportunity that they could easily pay for the lunch. but I believe the reason for that, it just was streamlined, it just made sense, it would be better.
We met that threshold of the percentage of kids that, I don't know what the percentage was, but we had it in a couple schools because the
Right.
percentage was up, and now it's so across all the schools, our percentage of kids that need help or families that need help was so high
Yes,
that they give it to everybody.
I get that, but there's a percentage who could easily afford.
Yeah.
Okay. And it just never made sense. You can easily afford to buy a school lunch or make a lunch, or the kids could afford to buy the lunch or whatever. It made no sense to me that we then provide that family with a free lunch. It makes no sense to me. This isn't making a lot of sense to me either, that now we're providing St. John Paul School with a lunch. I still don't see why you don't charge $3, $4, and make more of a profit for our school. I mean, we're providing the lunches. I don't see why you wouldn't do that.
Do you want to speak to that, Dave?
It wouldn't fall under the National School Lunch Program.
So because we're part of it, so they're almost becoming our two more schools on the lunch world. They're becoming two more, so they have to follow the rules that you as our person follow for all the other 9 schools.
That's correct. That's correct.
So legally, we can't say.
Well, we can. They just won't follow the National School Lunch Program. They could be a vended agreement and charge for their meals, but we're not going to get any type of reimbursement. We wouldn't be able to use any government foods. Anything that we get from the state or the feds, we wouldn't be able to use because we get a lot of foods. We get also. I get $90,000 worth of DoD produce a year. We wouldn't be able to give them a cucumber from that. So it would drive their cost up. I wouldn't even be able to afford to charge $3. It would be much more if we weren't able to use any of those allotments.
Okay. Okay. Andre, you've been kind of quiet. What are you thinking?
No, it's that it was explained that this is going to be financially beneficial to the district. You gave the number 33,000, so on and forth. And to Peter's point, that we could, but under as I understand it, under the national law, they're getting the same rate that we're getting essentially. Is that?
No, yeah.
That's correct.
They're getting, we get this rate, so they're getting this rate. And within that framework, again, I just point to it. Kathy, you alluded to it. The leadership that's been shown by this district, and during exceedingly trying times to provide that nutritional assistance, it is substantial. It's a point of pride. Mike, to your point, and this is something that we deal with in district, it's a paradigm shift that our students don't have to pay for their lunches in Barnstable. But that goes into what we're working through, that this is not the Barnstable of yesteryear. It's a different community. And so while that service is immensurately important and critical, it just reflects some of the other needs that we have that we work very hard at. So I don't see, if it's financially beneficial at the end of the day, and Pope John Paul is receiving a rate commensurate with we get, that's been helpful for us, it doesn't, I would allow them to have that, establish this partnership. It doesn't all have to be competition, and we can move forward in a positive way.
Go ahead, Peter.
Last question for me.
Yeah.
Are there any salaries involved that the town of Barnstable is responsible? I know Dave, you have a salary. Are there any other salaries that we are going to be responsible for at some point?
The only salaries we'll have are the 2 employees that will be at the location, at the high school, at the Catholic high school.
And who's paying them?
It will be the Barnstable Public Schools. It is part of that budget.
And why wouldn't Pope John Paul pick up that salary? We're paying the salaries of these employees?
Because they're our employees. They're actually physically under our payroll, or the Abbey Group's payroll, I'm sorry.
But,
well, time out. So we don't pay those people. The Abbey, they're subcontract. So
yeah,
well, I just want to so they're not our employees.
They're the
Abbey Group's employees.
But essentially, the district does pay for them because all the costs from the program get billed back to Barnstable Public Schools. We take the reimbursement from the state.
And then you pay the Abbey Group
Correct.
for all of their employees. Their subcontract is
Correct. We
kind
pay
of
for the-
like the bus.
we pay for any
I mean,
food
we're
that-
paying for them. It's just that they're not our employees.
Correct.
They're the Abbey. They work for the Abbey Group. They get the Abbey Group's benefits. They get all of that. Correct.
Correct.
So they're not our employees. If I worked in the cafeteria, I don't work for the Barnstable school system. I work for the Abbey Group.
Correct.
Okay.
And then that is funded through the revolving fund
Correct.
from the food
Well,
service.
it's funded through the reimbursements that we
Right.
get from the state, which is where the revolving funds come from. But
Just to make what you said, I just want to make it clear. So you're saying that $33,000 conservatively we would make, that's after paying for the 2 employees, that's paying for
everything.
like any upgrades needed to the kitchen, anything. It's all done, and then we're going to make your thinking around 33 grand conservatively.
very conservative.
Okay.
But just to understand, anything that has to do with equipment purchases or repairs.
Oh, okay.
They'll pay for it.
So any upgrades in their kitchen, they're paying for it.
That's correct.
Anything, we're providing the employees and the food to cook it and make the food that we provide. That's it.
That's it.
They're taking care of any structural, like you said, gas, electricity.
Correct.
Anything else is on them because it's their building, not our building.
Correct.
Believe me, I've learned a lot about commercial kitchens in the last month. I would not wish that on anybody.
Peter, do you understand that? Like, do you have any follow-up questions?
I understand it, yeah.
Okay, but you don't.
I would hope we wouldn't be paying for their gas or
Right,
electric.
no, I
or,
agree.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that to me isn't a big plus. It's what
Right.
they should do.
You know, even as part of the budget, just to be, conservative with it, I even put things in that we didn't do over a collaborative like transportation, for food products to be delivered over there from Barnstable Public Schools. So there were even some small costs that I put in that budget, just to make sure that we were
Still, right,
150% covered. So I thought of everything.
The line of evenness is even
the
further
Abbey
away.
Group gave it to me, and I said, "Oh no, I gave it back." I said, "No, add this, bring this up, bring this down."
So you padded the cost of our costs so that it's
Absolutely.
going to be 33 plus.
Yeah.
Estimated them conservative.
Right. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to authorize the superintendent to proceed with providing food services to St. John Paul II School as presented in tonight's materials.
Second.
Having a motion and seconded. This is a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it 3-1. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Moving on to 5.3, School Improvement Plan for Barnstable High School. Sarah and Liz?
Yeah, so Liz Friedman is here to talk about the high school's school improvement plan. At the last meeting, you approved the district improvement plan, and I had shared the expectations of how school improvement plans align with the first 2 goals. The school improvement plan is being presented tonight to inform you, and Liz is here to share what they've been working on.
Welcome. Hi, Liz.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say 2 quick things beforehand. Ooh, my opportunity. One is just, it's so great getting to see our students present. Like, I'm not usually here to see it, and there was a lot of students presenting, so I'm very impressed with their, seemingly lack of nerves. I don't know what they're feeling inside. I think the second was, Andrea, you had commented about the teacher-led work with the back-to-school nights, and I really do need to publicly thank Wendy Johnson for the high school night, and certainly all of the teachers and educators. But she spearheaded this amazing night, and I did find out after it was already set in stone that it was her birthday, and maybe a significant one, but I should not be putting that out publicly. But yeah, it was really incredible what she spearheaded, and then it was certainly a joint effort with many staff helping out. So thank you for acknowledging that. So yeah, we're going to go over the Barnstable High School plan. And I think, as Sarah said, you'll see that it starts with the Barnstable Public School vision and core values, and the assignment, which was easy to do because this is the alignment and the work that we're doing, I feel like, on a regular basis to what's happening at the district and bringing that down to the school level. Oh, yes, thank you. I figure that's pretty familiar to everybody, the Barnstable district. So these are the BHS core values. The bullet points are something that we've shared, but we use the core values without the bullet points in other places. These, I don't know if sort of what people knew about the process or not, but this happened last year where there was feedback from the Barnstable High School community in terms of students and staff. We didn't do as much with parents as core values as we did with Vision of a Graduate. We did get some input, but we got a lot of input from the faculty and the students. And so working with our visioning group that was made up of students and teachers and administrators, we took all of that data and worked throughout the year and came up after a few iterations of getting feedback with these core values. So I can't thank that group enough. We then tried these core values out over the summer in our school leadership team when we were working on things like the student handbook and finalizing and opening week and some other things. And I asked the administration, who had not all been involved with this other than giving data, and the one member who was representative on the vision team, to use these in the work they were doing to really lead their work and see sort of what they saw from it. And I was expecting a lot of feedback because it can be kind of clunky and these were new. And it was really positive in terms of how they felt it really grounded their work and gave clear direction. So that was fantastic to hear that. And so anyways, these are our core values and what we are really going to be working to incorporate in everything that we do at the high school. So following the Barnstable Public Schools district objective of the culture of belonging, I'm sorry, it's the two district ones here. So it's the district objective 1, the culture of belonging, and the rigorous curriculum and effective engaging instruction that's aligned with the vision of a graduate. So you'll see in these next pages the alignment with the high school goals. So the first one around the school objective, the building the capacity around, no, I'm going to go back again. Sorry, my layout's a little bit different, even though I did these as well. The culture of belonging, the safe and inclusive climate is from the district. This strategic objective, we have 2 that are under this district one. This one is building capacity around social emotional learning and cultural relevance and applying them in day-to-day communications in all contexts. I do want to say this objective, as well as a few of our others, they're very similar to ones that were last year, where we were able to see and do reflection on how far we got with them last year and decide what made sense to keep and not keep. And so some of these have through lines in for more than a year, which to me makes a lot of sense. It's hard to do some of these larger things in a year's time. But those are our strategic initiatives, and each one of those has action steps and leaders and metrics, and I'd be happy to answer more on that. We didn't put all of the information in here, but as you can see, we have 3 initiatives for that. Developing a process where student voice is central to decision making. So it's easy enough to say we want student voice, but really making sure that it comes out in everything that we are doing. Developing and implementing a PLC plan that's aligned with the school's core values to promote shared leadership, focus on structures to build community. I think we're off to a great start with that in terms of having the teaching staff really take ownership for what they think is important and aligned to the school improvement plan. And I can certainly talk more about that, but I'm excited to see where that goes. And then the authentically integrating the core values into the culture of the building. So we're looking at many different ways to do this, and we want to get a lot of student voice and teacher voice in how this goes. And again, it's that authentic piece. So we don't want to sort of tag it to everything and say, which core value is this? Because then it starts to become more of almost a compliance thing instead of like a real, like, how are we living them? So we have a lot of things in the works, but to really authentically integrate them in. So the next one that is also under the culture of belonging, which is developing and organizing systems that need to go in place to support all student learning and well-being. This is definitely something that is a continuation. We've made some great progress in terms of just getting like, for instance, our attendance system up. Knowing what happens at each amount of absences, what interventions we're putting in place, and just getting much tighter about that. That's just an example of something that we did last year. we certainly want to be going a lot further than that. So this year, our two initiatives under that are building and strengthening the MTSS, the tiered system of support implementation, and really looking at tier 1 in each department, although I wonder why I have just tier 1. As I'm thinking about it, we have a pretty solid plan for tier 2 as well. And then really looking at how do we continue to streamline and clarify hub processes to make sure that our discipline is restorative, that students are learning from actions that may be taking away from the school community, so that it's helping to improve the community, not simply punishing, which is shown to not work. So there's certainly consequences, but meaning with those consequences, there's a natural learning component that goes with it. And so the other things in terms of hub processes would be like our hub meetings and how those can work more efficiently, because our staff works really hard, but there's always so much to do, and the more we can become efficient, the more we can put in interventions and preventative measures when we're actually able to sit down, have a process for how we look at things more strategically. So I'm just doing a lot of talking here. The next one, under the rigorous curriculum and engaging and effective instruction, to create more relevant learning experiences for students so that BHS is a place where students find their why. This is also a continuation, and this continues on from the work at BIS. There's a lot of great work happening there around project-based learning and different things that they're doing, and knowing that right, all of us having our purpose and passion in life is what keeps us going, and that's what we certainly want for all of our students, to find that as well. So really continuing on, developing, because our vision of a graduate is new and is almost final, but making sure that our curriculum and career pathways and vision of a graduate are really aligned. So there's some things in our vision of a graduate that we could look at and say, you know what, this is something for our future. We might not have something in place for it, and what do we maybe need to create? Other things, they're already there. We'll continue doing them, but making sure that crosswalk is happening. Strengthening the process for the MyCap, and that's the college and career planning. We have been upping it every year in terms of getting that to be full grade-wise, so that it and eventually be 8th through 12th grade. This is a really important piece of helping students find their why. There's many a meeting we'll sit in with students before they have done this process and talk with them about what they may want to do, and some of the students who may be a little bit less engaged or maybe having some issues, and you hear a lot like, I don't know, right? And again, that sort of connection isn't there. And having them work on MyCap, it's not always a magic thing, but it's an introduction to a way to like explore their interests, their learning styles, careers, things that they may never thought of, all within a very nice package. And I will say, on this, it's a great site as it is, and then when I think about what Erin Eastman has done in terms of making a friendly like interface between the comprehensive system that's through the state and what we want our students to know at BHS, like she's done an amazing job of doing that. So really trying to make it very user-friendly, but to give students that opportunity and to build on it every year of what am I interested in? What did I not know I was interested in? But because I like these kind of things, I'm finding out new things. What kind of learner am I? And then where can that take me? And what kind of courses would I take? And would I be going for training after I'm done with school? Or would I be going for college? And, you know, but just having a comprehensive system for that where students are not falling through the cracks. And again, not because staff's not working hard, because we have a really hardworking staff. But without having really strong systems in place, it can become very easy for people to fall through. And then exploring elements of our high-quality curriculum, instruction, and assessment connected to the vision of a graduate. So again, being able to look at what's in place that's working that really is going to help lead us to this vision of a graduate, and what are we not meeting the mark on. There's some things when I think of the vision of a graduate, and I can see pockets of it, like when I think about our civics presentation of learning, and I see, again, it's more the structure. It's not teachers are doing great things, but in terms of having the setup to be able to have half a day where they can do presentations of learning and they can have the community in to really assess what they're doing and have people in the field in and do it. We want to make that a common practice, not just in pockets. Doing things that are really going to connect with the idea of if we want kids to demonstrate these skills, what else do we need to put for opportunities and how they are assessed into the curriculum. So just knowing that there's going to be exciting work happening once the vision of the graduate is done to make sure that it is aligned and we're making the necessary changes to get our students there. Questions, comments?
Any questions?
Yes, I like that. That was a nice presentation, Liz. Thanks. I like the that last page, the rigorous curriculum. To me, it was lacking a little bit of specifics, but you know, I know you're tying it into the vision of graduate, et cetera. Because on that first page, the core values, it bothered me a little bit. Nowhere was there listed academics or rigorous curriculum or whatever. But I'm glad you got to it at the end, so that was a nice presentation.
Excuse me, let me just turn that off. I got the phones off, but not the computer. Okay, sorry. I'm just going to turn that off.
I didn't know your computer could do that.
Yeah, I got to figure out
Is
how
it
to
an
turn it
alarm?
off because my daughter,
Is that an
when she
alarm?
wants to see me. No, it's actually a call coming through.
Really? It comes over your computer?
Yeah, it's not on purpose.
Yeah, I'm not technically savvy, so.
Yes.
Go ahead, Andre.
No shortage of people needing your attention. Being the principal of Barnstable High School. For me, you talked a good amount about the restorative practices in terms of discipline, which is certainly important, and the peer mediation is wonderful. What I'm interested in is the corrective practices in terms of our interventions with students and how you see that. Meaning, I get that the discipline has to take place, and it does need to come from a place of understanding and empathy, to be able to relate to the individual students. But how do you see it in terms of corrective practices, meaning a reduction? Meaning, is the disciplinary framework in place leading to a reduction of incidents, in your opinion?
Yeah, I really think we are getting there. Like the data will show us for sure, but anecdotally, it definitely feels like we are getting there. And thinking again of like PASS was started last year, and that difference of, and that's the positive alternative to school suspension. So students are still out of the building, which is important for sort of for even the community, for both the student and possibly ones that they have harmed. And when I say harmed, I don't mean physically harmed, but taken away from the school community. So that is where they're getting counseling services, they're getting support with their work, they're examining their behaviors and trying to being introduced to tools or additional tools that would help make things better, and then coming back in through a plan that gets talked about with the school adjustment counselor for that hub, the associate principal, and the family and the people at PASS. So like that is just an example, and like we certainly have seen good outcomes. Again, a lot of that becomes anecdotal. Like we're looking for the longevity to be able to run it and see that change, but that would be an example. Something else that we're looking at, well, I'll go back for a moment. Often when students come back on contracts, we're doing things like, it's not just throwing it up in the air to see, but saying if students aren't connected to a club or an activity, finding a way to connect them and connecting them with a staff who is going to really be able to take a personal interest in them. So they've gotten consequences for something. They may have been removed, but we are very much we want to connect you. We know connection is going to make a difference, and we've seen it. I will tell you, I have seen it. It hasn't helped all students, but it has remarkably helped some of the students. It's pretty powerful to see. So looking more at things like that, like we're looking at even our after-school detentions, that I give the associate principals with all of their work so much credit, because they were like, we don't have enough things that are like sort of more smaller consequences for things before like students are out of school, and we don't want that, or having to come to a Saturday school. So for instance, with that, and looking at ways that it's not just about detention where you just sit there, but what is the learning piece? So we're working on developing more so that there is that learning piece about it. And for instance, there have been times where literally students, and they've had the choice within detention to go and do something after school. So like with the intramural program, and there's been a talk about it. It's not as a reward. It's literally, again, of like really honest conversations about not being connected to the school, and then seeing that benefit. So there's definitely some things in the works. I think about with the community members, and we're going to soon have a plan that I would love to be able to present to everyone, but we have the People of Action that have been volunteering and coming so far just like a little bit here and there, but we're working on a full program where we have these positive mentors who are just, they're amazing, and you can just see the positive impact they're having on the school culture already. But having them come in and being able to connect students with like mentors, and hopefully trying to do these things before there is a problem, or like with someone where we're seeing behaviors, they haven't gotten in big trouble, they haven't had a large amount of issues, but we notice they're in the hallway more. So making a connection with them, with a mentor, for instance. So we're constantly looking at more programmatic things like that we can do.
Wonderful. And, I just think that in terms of the information that we learned previously about, why students are leaving the district, and over 50% of those students are leaving the district because their families are moving out of the district. So there's, if that student is parachuting in for a short period of time and then parachuting out to someplace else, it's difficult for the students, difficult for the family, but in terms of the work that you and all the staff are doing at Barnstable High School, how do you feel connected, to a place that you're not going to be in for a very long period of time? And if you're not connected and this place has no, it's not going to take you from anywhere, then the mind can start to wander, and then it goes to places that are not productive for anybody. So I just think, again, in terms of where we are at as a district currently versus where we might have been years ago, if half of your students are leaving not just because they're going to DY, but because they're moving out of the town and maybe out of the region, and the 300 or so students that are coming into the district are coming in from points, and there's that uncertainty. That's one of the metrics, again, we talk about accountability, that's not going to come up on an MCAS in terms of how you help that student to find, to feel comfortable and to have a sense of place, and belonging, and to have that moment of perspective in terms of, okay, this is working. When there's vast uncertainty in the background, that's really motivating everything else. Student doesn't know if they're going to be at the end of the year. So that work is very encouraging that you're doing, and you need to get credit for, and it needs to be recognized in terms of the work that's going on in Barnstable 2023 versus what may have been going on in 2013 or 2003 in years past. I'll just conclude because other people have, but Peter had noted, and again for me, in terms of our improvement plan, the curriculum piece, but we have to give attention to our best and brightest, our students that are really excelling on the other end of the spectrum, and a lot of it is about getting students. But just for me, I know the curriculum is rigorous, and I know that we have a plethora of offerings that would be the envy of many other districts in the state. I know all of that stuff, but in terms of our messaging, I think the community needs to know more about it. And in terms of how we're deploying resources, how are our bright shining stars, what resources are they giving? So that's not, my point is, certain students are going to go on to elite universities, and they're going because they're driven and they're going to be successful. But I'd like to know what contribution did we make in order to further accelerate, their tremendous growth.
Anybody else? All set? I think I'm all set. Excellent job, Liz. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to, before I go on to 5.4 and 5.5, Jane, do I have to table those, or can I just withdraw them? Can I just withdraw them without tabling them? Okay, so 5.4 for the public is suspend policy BGB, policy adoption. We're going to withdraw that motion, and then I'm going to also withdraw 5.5 revised policy EEAB, preschool, kindergarten, and special needs students as identified, bus policy and procedures. As Kathy said in the school committee comments, that is based on the policies, just feedback, and the policy is going to go back to the policy subcommittee, and they're going to kind of have a little bit more conversation about that 5.5 So having done that, we're now going to be on to 5.6, approve speech language pathologist coordinator job description. Sarah.
Thank you. In board docs is a coordinator job description to support coordination for speech language pathologists. This is an area that we've experienced a number of vacancies, and we've sought to be creative. We have posted some positions as SLP assistants, and we recently hired one. That person needs oversight, and we feel that it would be fair to compensate one of our SLPs in a coordinating role to provide that oversight. We also have a need among this group to coordinate professional development and their department meeting agendas. The size of the group is not as large as some of our departments. It's a smaller group of about 10 people. We previously had a SLP coordinator in the contract. We could not find that job description from years ago, so rather than reframing this as a revised job description, it's kind of a new job description with this vision. We've talked about this with the Barnstable's Teachers Association and would they are okay with the job description. The stipend is already listed in the collective bargaining agreement from years past at $4,791. We would be able to support the funding for this with the vacancies and cost savings that we're experiencing by employing the SLPA versus a fully licensed SLP.
Excellent. Any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Move to approve the speech language pathologist coordinator job description as presented in tonight's materials.
I'll second.
Having a motion and seconded, voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to 5.7, superintendent evaluation evidence for 22-23. Actually, if I could just kind of tee it up. So for the public and just as a reminder, so the way this process works for the superintendent's evaluation, back in the middle of probably last February, we did mid-year evaluations where we all went and kind of had meetings with Sarah, talked about kind of where we thought she was compared to her goals and just had general conversations. And then what happens at the end of the process is she will give us the evidence to support that she met her goals. And then we will have meetings with her. I think we're all scheduled, right, Jen? We're all scheduled for October. I think Kathy and I were the last two, and we're scheduled. So we're all set to meet with her. And then what we'll do is we will get paperwork, because the end of the year is kind of like educators, where the end of the year is in writing. The end of the year, the end of the evaluation cycle is in writing. So we'll get the same paperwork that evaluators, that teachers get. And you'll fill out that, make your comments, give her what you think she deserves, and then what we do is we all give it to Jen. Jen takes them all, puts them kind of middle of the road where everybody kind of meets, and then that is presented to Sarah as her evaluation. So just to let you know, when we do, and for the public, all of our individual written evaluations will be public record along with that final evaluation. So just, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean, so if the public wants to see Sarah's evaluation, she can see each of ours individually, and she can also see the collective. So that's kind of where we're at now. So she's going to present her evidence tonight. We're meeting with her. I'll get back to everybody about when we need to have, because what we're going to do is we're going to meet in October. We actually have a school committee meeting in November before the election takes effect. Our November school committee meeting is actually before the election takes effect. So that's when the final evaluation will be given to Sarah for the year. And I just remind everybody this is for last year. And for the public, the reason we wait until this point is because of MCAS scores, and a lot of superintendents' evaluations have to do with MCAS scores, so they don't come out until September. So that's why we wait. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
So you're saying our work is done by the November school committee.
Yes, yep. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to have her present her evidence in October, so then we could have our meetings and then do the written part. It will all be wrapped up by during our November school committee, because it's not fair to have somebody new come in and evaluate her for last year. They weren't a member of the school committee. So I want to wrap it up before the election takes effect. So, sound good? Okay, turn it over to Sarah.
Great, thank you. So I look forward to presenting my evidence to you this evening, and then having the individual conversations. If there's something in addition that you would like to see, I'm happy to accommodate that request. I would share it with every single person, because that's how we operate. I would share additional artifacts if you wanted to see them. Sometimes it's a little hard to kind of anticipate and know exactly what you want to see, but I try my best to share things that I don't think are necessarily obvious to you during the course of the school year. So this is the cycle that all educators go through in terms of their evaluation, and I'm presenting evidence towards the summative, which is there on the left, which will inform a self-assessment and goal setting for the next round. My evidence is organized in 3 areas. One is around personal professional goals. I have a student learning goal and a professional practice goal. There are 4 district improvement goals, and then evidence towards standards in the superintendent's rubric. There are some focus indicators that we selected last year, and I organized evidence around those. But if there, again, are things that you'd like to see in addition, I could supply them to the entire committee. I did also do a little bit of a self-assessment. You are open, this is your evaluation, you're open to disagree with me, but I wanted to do a little bit of a self-assessment in some areas with respect to what I see related to the goals, particularly as I think forward to the next set of goals that I need to draft for the coming year. So the student learning goal had to do with literacy, specifically growth scores on the STAR assessment and growth scores on the MCAS ELA assessment, with the idea that 80% of the data set would have at least moderate growth range of 40 to 60 across all grade levels, tests, and subgroups. The charts here demonstrate the fall and spring growth scores for STAR in terms of early literacy and reading. In the fall, 3 of 36 scores were below the moderate growth score of 40, and 2 of the scores were within high growth, which is above 60. So we actually started, those were actually the scores to start. In the spring, 100% of scores were in the moderate growth range of 40 to 60, with 6 of the scores in the high growth range of greater than 60. I didn't self-assess this as having exceeded the goal, in part because I thought that the fall scores were so strong that maybe it was a little bit of a lesser, not quite as ambitious of a goal as it perhaps could have been, but 80% is commonly how people write their goals to be. So I assessed it as met versus having exceeded. In terms of MCAS, we had the following growth scores, and Kristen, in the coming months, will do a more formal MCAS and accountability presentation to the school committee based on our September scores. But we had in these groups for all students, and then in our subgroups, scores in the moderate range. One of the scores for high school mean SGP with respect to students with disabilities was just under 30. So 93.75% of the MCAS growth scores are within the moderate range of growth. I'll pause there. Maybe there's a lot here, so I'll pause kind of after each section, if Mike, you're okay with that, to see if there's any questions or comments.
Yeah, no, so what, just with my own head, so that is your evidence for that first.
That first student learning goal.
For student learning. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, just trying to understand the MCAS, this chart, I guess. Maybe I'm just dumb.
So
we're not looking at the scores.
This is not the achievement scores, this is the growth scores. So the growth scores take the cohort of students that were here in Barnstable and assessed and compared to their achievement scores from one year to the next year in a cohort. So some of the students that are exiting the system or coming into the system wouldn't be included. These are kind of Barnstable students from one year to the next compared to their peers. Average growth is 50. Moderate growth is between 40 and 60. Below 40 is low growth, and above 60 is high growth. It's another way to look at achievement in a way that, in some ways, compares students against their peers, and I think has a lot of validity.
Okay, here's my dumb question. So looking at this, showing 93.75% of scores are within the moderate range of growth, one would assume MCAS scores went up in most categories.
So we'll share more about MCAS scores in the coming in a coming meeting. Growth is kind of expected growth in a year's worth of time. In some places, the scores went up, and in some places, they didn't. But the growth score gives you that achievement score is taking into account all test takers. This is looking at a group of test takers who were in Barnstable last year to be tested, and then this year to be tested. So some of the, it removes some of the test takers who weren't in the system previously who may have moved in anew.
So can I just piggyback on what you're asking?
Sure, maybe you can ask it better.
Yeah, well, no, so the cohort of kids that were in, say, 9th grade and then went to 10th grade, right? So this is the high school. So this is MCAS, which is only 9th grade and 10th grade at the high school, correct? Yeah.
The 10th graders, this is ELA, and it would be the 10th grade scores and how much growth the children had relative to their peers compared to 8th grade ELA.
Because they don't take it in 9th grade.
Because they don't take it
Okay,
in 9th
that's
grade.
okay. So this is the same group of kids in 8th grade got X, and in 10th grade they got X, and it's comparing how much those same group of kids grew from 8th grade to 10th grade.
Yes.
So they had most of them had moderate growth in that. How many kids, is it every kid who was here in 8th grade and here in 10th grade? Or is there did you only take a certain amount of
Should
kids?
be every kid who
Took the
have a
MCAS test in Barnstable in 8th grade and took the MCAS test in 10th grade.
would have an
They
SGP score.
they were
Yeah.
all, so it's not like you took a subgroup, it's every kid.
Yes.
Does that?
Yeah, I assume this includes every kid.
Yeah, right.
Are there any
That was here.
categories left?
No.
Okay, so this includes every kid. I'm just looking at this. I'm a simpleton, and this is great. 93% achieved growth in these scores, so that's great. From 8th to 10th. Okay, so one would then maybe I don't understand. I would just assume that one's scores would then go up because they've achieved growth.
How could they not?
How could they not? That's my question.
Is that kind of the question?
Well, I don't think Sarah said, yeah, they all did. She said, we're going to address MCAS later.
So I can tell Sarah's, wait a minute, time out. I can see Sarah's face. Can we just table this? And I'll tell you why, because she can't talk about the scores. She can't talk about the scores yet, correct?
I just don't have them at my fingertips.
Right.
I just don't, I'm not
understand.
prepared to talk about the
Okay.
achievement scores. But when you look at achievement scores, we're looking at 300 test takers, let's say, and a certain percentage of them weren't here the last time they were tested. And so I think that when you look at scores year over year over year, there's an inherent sort of unfairness to look at this year's grade 4 scores compared to last year's grade 4 scores because they're different groups of kids. And there may be some more newcomers that moved in from different school districts that didn't have the Barnstable curriculum. So it's very, very, very hard to compare, although we love to do it and it happens all the time, really hard to compare achievement scores year over year over year. I think it's particularly difficult in a place like Barnstable where we have there's a lot shifting. There's a lot
Like
moving
Andre
and
said,
a lot of new
there's a lot of kids that are coming and going.
Yeah, so it's really, really, really hard. It was hard 10 years ago to compare grade 4 scores in one year to the next year because, again, it's a different group of students. The growth scores help you track those cohorts of students as a different measurement.
So can I just, sorry, so to Peter's point, so if you did fourth grade this year and fourth grade last year, it's two different groups of kids. But if you did the fourth grade kids from last year to the fifth grade kids this year, that's the same group of kids.
That's the same group of kids.
And that's what this is showing
Yes.
for growth.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not showing fourth grade last year, fourth grade the year before, fourth grade the year
And-
before that. It's showing fourth grade to fifth grade to sixth grade.
Fourth grade, yeah.
Right,
Yep.
because those kids are
Those
moving
same
up.
students.
Right, you're looking at the same group of kids, not the same grade.
Same group of students in different grades, right, from one grade to the next. I think the other thing to keep in mind too is that the Department of Education sets new cut scores for the level, for exceeding and meeting every year. I know this year that they set more stringent cut scores related to the labels of exceeding and meeting and not yet meeting. So this is a way to sort of take some of that noise out and look at the same group of students year over year and look at their growth.
One sec, Kathy, are you okay? Do you have any other questions, or you're thinking? I'll come back to you. Kathy, go ahead.
Sarah said a lot of what I was going to say. I think each year the test is different. So the fourth grade test is more difficult than the third grade test. The fifth grade test is more difficult because it covers extra material. So the growth rate, it's not just improving on the exact same level of testing either, because like you said, when everybody progress. So as the stakes go up, and which is why the students with disabilities could be much lower, they learn at a slower pace many times. So, they don't always catch up, or their growth is not always as fast or as great as a student who takes a traditional amount of time. So the fifth grade test has more content, different content, but you're assessing that if they got, I'm going to make a number up, if they got 162 on one, and then next year they got 172, their growth went up and the test was more difficult. It wasn't the same material. So I believe we asked for this. I know I did, because we kept getting year after year, seventh grade test scores went up. Well, those are different students, so, or seventh grade test scores went down, or eighth grade. So I do think that comparing the cohort to see whether they're improving, the whole idea is if you're not meeting expectations in the lower grades, that you meet them by the time it really counts, which is 10th grade, right?
Yeah, and I think we'd like to see, I know this is related to my evaluation, we set the goal, and I am sitting here saying I don't think it was ambitious enough. I think we'd like to see more scores in the 60 and above. That would mean that students are accelerating their growth, and if they're going from not meeting, they would be going to meeting expectations over time. 50 to 60 is like high moderate growth, and then 40 to 50 the state considers low moderate growth. All consistent with kind of a year's worth of growth in a year's time. I think going back to the STAR scores, seeing the number that was above 60 was really pleasing, and I think we want to see more of the 50s and up, where students are making that higher growth.
Are you okay? Do you have any other questions? Or
Yeah, I guess it's just a terminology here. I guess they're achieving growth, and to determine growth, you had to look at a test score.
Yes.
And they did better.
Not every student.
Everyone were looking at the chart except for students with disabilities. Everyone did better. It's marked in green. They showed growth. So they did better in a test.
They progressed towards the expectations.
So if you took,
I just don't understand why these are hard. So they did better in the test.
Not every kid in that, not every kid because this isn't broken down as, when we see the MCAS scores, they're gonna be broken down by school, they're gonna be broken down more. This is kind of a big picture, where when we get the MCAS scores, like, for instance, so we have what? I don't know, say in third grade, we have 30 classrooms, right? So not every kid in third grade did better than second grade. Right. Because, right, but 40%, there's a 40% growth, and 97% of the scores are within the moderate, so 93. So out of all the third graders that went to fourth grade, how many of them, we don't have it broken down by grade, so we don't know.
At the district level.
Right.
Yeah. We can, if there's more information you'd like in this area.
Do you want to see it more
can
like
put it
broken
together.
down, like more into like kind of what MCAS is, where it's done by the school growth?
It's,
Sure.
I'm trying to, like, to me, I think it would be better if it was done that way, because that's the way we look at the MCAS scores, right, is by the building.
I can do that.
Just because then it'll be more apples to apples when we get the MCAS scores.
Yeah, we can share more of the MCAS data, particularly as it relates to growth. It's another way of looking at how the students are doing, and not to confuse the matter, but you could have a very high achieving student who's exceeding expectations with low growth.
Because they're not still going, they're starting to slow down.
They're slowing down, or compared to their peers. There's also a ceiling effect of the test in terms of
How
it might
high
be
you
a
can get.
student doing 7th grade reading, but they're in 4th grade, but the test only tests those 4th grade standards. So it creates another way of looking at how students are doing, and it's not so directly tied to the achievement.
And it's our long-term kids. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean long-term kids. It's not our kids that are bouncing in and out. It gets rid of that noise. It only looks at our kids that were there the last year that they took the MCAS.
Right.
So it gets rid of some of that background noise.
Right.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
So the next one is the professional practice goal, which was about my entry plan. And I rated myself as having met that. I shared a transition plan with the community and you in the spring of '22. I presented the entry plan that fall or summer, I should probably in the summer, and reported on my findings in the winter. And used that to develop the draft strategy for improvement in June, which I shared with the school administrators, and then presented to you for approval as the next district improvement plan in September. So those are all things that should be, I hope, familiar to you, and there's links there as artifacts. Any questions? Okay.
Any questions? No?
No, I'm gun shy now.
No, I'm sorry, can I go back to what, I'm sorry, I was just kind of sitting here thinking, and I was listening to you, but I was also thinking, so Peter, the thing with the MCAS scores, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? But the MCAS scores, when we get fourth grade MCAS scores, right, that's comparing our current fourth graders to the fourth graders of last year. So those kids are now fifth grade. So it's just staying in the same grade and comparing the fourth grade kids this year to the fourth grade kids last year. Well, I mean, some classes are higher achievers, or some are a little higher, some are a little lower. So it kind of is what it is. So the MCAS scores could go down because the fourth graders last year did better on the test than the fourth graders this year. So it's looking at it differently. So the scores aren't necessarily correlated. This is looking at those fourth graders going on to fifth grade. The way we look at MCAS is looking at the fourth graders last year compared to the fourth graders this year. Correct?
Right.
Yeah, so that's why it doesn't necessarily correlate, because it's those kids are now fifth graders. So this is looking at them going from fourth to fifth. The MCAS score is looking at those kids last year compared to the kids this year, but only in fourth grade learning the material. Do you get it? Okay.
And it's a different test every year and every different grade, and sort of historically it's been thought that fourth grade's harder than third grade test, and so scores might go down, but growth is on the higher side. I need to fact check the Barnstable cohort, and Kristen is doing that for me. It may be compared to previous test takers, even if they took the test in a different district. So we're going to fact check that, and I'll follow up with you on to sort of clarify on the MCAS SGP. This is we had MCAS. We didn't have MCAS in 2020. We were under a whole different set of rules in 21 and 22. So there's a lot that's coming back in 23 as it relates to MCAS and accountability, and it's causing me to have to dust out a few cobwebs in my brain as we think about MCAS and accountability kind of returning anew. The first district improvement goal is around fostering a sense of belonging. Engaged in an inclusive entry process to yield a long-term strategy. That is kind of coincides directly with my professional practice goal, so I did not add anything there. In terms of leveraging communication channels to inform, grow confidence in, and expand BPS brand awareness, I included a number of things there regarding my practice related to communication. One of the things you might not be aware about is the Community Connections Committee is meeting. We meet the first Tuesday of each month, and we work on brand awareness through storytelling. That is the genesis of the BPS spotlights that go into the newsletters. We have had a You Belong in Barnstable campaign with new staff members through social media. And right now we're working on some alumni networks. Worked with the communications director on our social media presence, and BPS video is in development. I linked an example newsletter for faculty and staff, and also to communities and families. I've sent materials to the town manager to provide updates about things that are important to the entire community, to share news with the town council, as well as through the town's e-newsletter. And there's an example linked for you related to the FY24 budget. I have made some appearances on Discover Barnstable and Town Talk, and welcome those opportunities to share more broadly with the community things that we're doing. I was joined by Kristen and Liz to host the Citizens Leadership Academy in March of 23, which returned post-COVID, which was a wonderful opportunity to share with interested citizens all things related to Barnstable schools, and address the media through newspaper, also the radio. We had shared with a radio show about the successes of our high school pathways, and I linked that story with you. So those are just some examples. There are certainly others about leveraging communication. Strengthening school safety practices is kind of a continuation, but wanted to make sure that I understood what the safety practices were in the district. So I familiarized myself, made relationships with the community agencies like the chiefs of police and fire. And even though it was a holiday and a day off, I attended the Joint Police Fire Department training exercise on active shooter response. We have been working towards the facilities assessment and facilities plan. So I linked the assessment that was presented to you in June and the demographic forecast in July related to the time frame of this evaluation. And I worked closely with Athletic Director Steve Sentes last year. As he came in new, we developed athletic department handbooks. I communicated with him regularly on department culture and climate, and during the winter, the principal athletic director and I began to meet monthly. And he definitely had a lens towards equity across sports, and that is something that I look forward to continuing in the future.
Are there any questions? Seeing none?
Okay. The second district improvement goal was related to systems to monitor student understanding. I think this is one of those goals that is ongoing, so I had a hard time saying that I met it, but perhaps met the one-year benchmarks that would be expected. Examining academic discipline, school culture, and other data. Certainly looked at that as part of the entry plan. Use that data to think about how our students are doing academically and behaviorally, and meeting with community organizations to support that. responded to staff concerns throughout the year and supported principals with school-based changes. You heard about the peer mediation program, working with a joint labor management team at the high school, and held staff listening sessions at some of our buildings. I think this goal is probably best evidenced in the school improvement plans, which has a direct link to the district improvement plan and around which I support our principals. So when I meet with principals on a monthly basis, we talk about their school improvement goals, how students are doing, and in the supervision and evaluation process of principals, they're rated similarly in terms of how they're doing on their goals. I should also say, and I neglected to say this in the beginning, I'm one person, but I've got a team. And so much of the work, most of the work of the superintendent, I think, is reflected in the work of the team, both in central office, the leadership team, members of the union that we collaborate with, leadership of the union that we collaborate with, the school attorney. And so a lot of this work does inherently involve other people. In terms of data, to take action to support student achievement and well-being. Again, the district strategy for improvement and supporting goals in the school improvement plans linked on actions taken at the school level to support student achievement and well-being. I would point perhaps to the budget, taking into account the data that we have and the resources that were requested by the school committee as part of the school budget. Any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none? Okay.
Ensuring strong grade appropriate instruction. In terms of the benchmarks, I felt like we met those. One was to calibrate feedback on instruction across evaluators. I feel a little guilty taking credit for this work, although I think I was guiding on the side. But Kristen, Harmon, and our directors of teaching and learning really focused our district leadership teams in this area at our monthly meetings, having some calibration around what we would see in classrooms and how we write that up and provide that feedback to staff. District-wide philosophy and equitable approach towards teaching appropriate behaviors, discipline, and restorative practices. I reviewed all school handbooks last summer. We held 2 professional development trainings for all administrators on school discipline in August and November. We implemented new discipline letters. We closely monitored discipline practices throughout the year, hired a new executive director for SEL and student services. And I think, again, looking at the school improvement plans and some of the school improvement outcomes that the principals will share with you, Liz talked about some of the restorative practices and teaching better behaviors. Things that are going on are also evidence of this goal. We evaluated the Crossroads program in 22-23, and we prepared for an evaluation in 23-24 with the co-directors of special education. And the district improvement goal also included developing a district curriculum accommodation plan. Again, this was a district committee under the leadership of the assistant superintendent. It was presented at the Summer Leadership Institute, and we are looking to have buildings adapt that to building curriculum accommodation plans this fall.
Any questions? Seeing none?
Evaluating curriculum and planning for PD. I think we made significant progress here. We initiated documentation of curriculum using Atlas Rubicon. This was initiated with our curriculum leadership, again, under the leadership of Assistant Superintendent Harmon, but we meet on a weekly basis, and so are consistently touching base about progress towards this goal. We are moving slowly to ensure alignment of our curriculum with the vision of a graduate that ultimately gets adopted. The vision of a graduate developed the foundation for a long-term predictable curriculum review cycle. That's why I think this is not a met goal. I do aspire to having a more predictable curriculum cycle so we know what curriculum areas are going to be the focus in subsequent years. And we have our draft vision of a graduate, and I look forward to bringing that to conclusion and seeing how it comes to life in our schools. Exploring opportunities in literacy, early college, JROTC, and dual language programs. Set the stage for the curriculum review of early literacy through GLEAM. I became familiar with early college programs. I think there's still a lot of foundational work and examination around those to see how it would fit in with our current dual enrollment, but I did learn more about that. Supported the school committee in your research of JROTC programs and completed the application, and supported High West's school improvement goal to explore dual language programs as they examined and worked to research other districts.
Any questions?
Okay. And then this was sort of a fifth goal, so to speak, but some equity-focused goals that I included last year when we talked about my goals for the year. The first one is around efforts to recruit and retain diverse faculty and staff. We did continue to expand our recruitment avenues, having staff attend the Bridgewater State Job Fair. A number of us attended DESE's virtual job fair. We have kind of renewed our commitment to the Massachusetts Partnership for Diversity in Education, and a couple of our staff members, Dylan Gerald and Kristen Harmon, attended that job fair. We supported the first annual virtual educator career fair for high school students with a local panel of educators that followed the virtual meeting. We developed relationships within the community, which I think is really important for outreach. We did a research study with Vanderbilt. One of the things that came out as most notable in terms of our recruitment efforts and what our most successful recruitment efforts are word of mouth and relationships. So thinking it's really important to cultivate, myself personally, relationships with members of the community as a recruitment effort. And we updated our recruitment flyers to be more focused on who we are, the types of educators we're seeking. And I think something on the website had said something about never being more than 3 miles from the beach, which is wonderful, but maybe not exactly maybe like a sub-bullet of why it's great to be here versus many of the other things that would be a draw for candidates to the district. So we updated some recruitment flyers. We had the second year of the Teacher Diversification PLC with the Department of Education, and I created and sought input from the team to take that learning and then apply it with our district leadership team to focus their efforts on recruitment and retention of staff, and to do so in a way that reduces bias and also, I think, focuses first and foremost on retention. So those presentations are shared with you. I mentioned the research study. In terms of mentoring and support for faculty and staff of color, we promoted the MLK's Action League mentoring program. I supported a fellow to complete the Influence 100 program, which is a superintendent preparation program with the state. And I met regularly with faculty and staff to listen to concerns. Again, engage in an inclusive entry process. We've talked about that a couple of different times, so that is a little repetitive. I think it's intentional to have some of these things be repetitive. Can't all be an add-on. There should be some coherence between the personal goals and the district improvement goals. And building awareness and providing education and PD on cultural months and days of recognition and holidays. Newsletters and social media was where that manifested.
Any questions? Seeing none, keep on going.
And so the last part is related to the focus indicators. There aren't a lot of artifacts here, but it's a little bit, some bullet points to share with you about the habits of work that you wouldn't necessarily have a window into. And it's centered there. I think there are 6 focus indicators around these 4 standards. So in instructional leadership, the first focus indicator is around instruction. And it's about monitoring and supporting principals and instructional staffs through observations and feedback. So in terms of my practice, I have a habit of monthly visits to school. When I go and visit a school, I meet with the principal, we talk for a bit, and then engage in non-evaluative walkthroughs of 3 to 5 classrooms or workspaces. and then have a conversation to debrief with the principal regarding what we saw. And it's a really great way to get into classes and celebrate what's happening. It helps monitor progress towards school improvement goals. It's a fun way to connect with kids and teachers. But that is kind of a big way of how I monitor and support principals through that habit. I review principals' observations and formative summative evaluations of educators as part of their evaluations, and provide some support to them as they're developing those. I toured classrooms with a specific lens on special education with each of the co-directors of special education, debriefed with a conversation on what was observed, and looking to, again, celebrate some of the great things that are happening, but also address anything that may come to mind. And I meet with them on a weekly basis, and so there are things that we come back to based on what we observed in classrooms to make sure that, that we're on track. And as I had noted, the BDLT focus on instructional feedback, again, under Kristen's leadership, was something that we worked on last year. The other focus indicator in Standard 1 that we had talked about last year was around data-informed decision-making and using multiple sources of data. So I included some regular data habits that I have. Mo is an incredible asset to the district. I cannot thank her enough for kind of being anticipating, but also being responsive to our data work. So I'm looking. This is not all inclusive. Student enrollment and class size, personnel vacancies and recruitment, educator evaluation data, discipline data, our achievement data in STAR and MCAS and access scores, DESA data related to SEL. I look at the professional development surveys that Kristen administers after every PD day, and the BTA school culture surveys are among some of the ones that I would point to. The schools also at times engage in surveys with students or engage in surveys with families. They are very open in sharing those with me, and I appreciate their candor with that, and then we talk about what that might mean for their school improvement plans. In terms of, that was Standard 1. Are there any questions? Okay. Standard 2 related to human resource management. This is around a cohesive approach to recruitment, hiring, induction, development, and career growth. I think there's a lot of effort. As I said to the district leadership team at one of the meetings, personnel for a leader is job one. We can't do our work with kids without hiring and retaining good people in the positions district-wide. But it is one that is taking an increasing amount of skill and creativity in this labor market. I work closely with the Human Resources Department on a daily basis, working with the team to explore creative opportunities and problem solving. Appreciate your willingness to be creative with us in terms of thinking outside the box as we try to fill some of our vacancies. I did share evidence previously with BDLT around hiring and retaining a diverse workforce. I support the assistant superintendent with new teacher orientation, mentoring and induction, and other supports for new educators. There's some really exciting additions that she's putting in place in the coming years. Supporting educators' career growth by putting that in a district improvement plan going forward. I think one of the things that I would reflect on this past year as being very productive is developing a relationship with the Barnstable Teachers Association, meeting monthly with the leadership there to problem solve and address issues that affect the workplace. And we have ongoing communication regularly. And developing memorandums of understanding with BTA and BAO to a lesser extent, but also with the BAO to solve problems and work towards a more effective system. In terms of fiscal systems, this is about development of the budget that supports the district's vision, mission, and goals. Really appreciate the partner that we have with Chris Dwelly as our new, not so new anymore, Deputy Director of Finance. So would point to effective management of last year's FY23 budget as evidenced by the end of year report. An FY24 budget that I think the committee was very pleased with respect to some important positions and some of your priorities being supported, as evidence, including the budget book that we post on the website. And then the communication around the budget with various stakeholders. And I meet with the Deputy Director of School Finance weekly in order to monitor the budget and prepare materials for you and all sorts of things. So that was standard 2. Okay. Standard 3 is around communication. Some of this may be a little redundant with what you had seen before, but I would point to the monthly family newsletters, just-in-time communications around issues that we need to communicate about, developing the superintendent special education working group with CPAC, which I think is proceeding nicely in terms of developing that relationship and sharing with each other, adding additional family liaisons in the FY24 budget, responding to parent and guardian concerns. And I would share, because I think it's important, related to what this standard says, respecting different families' home languages, culture, and values. When concerns are raised, I really do try to use these moments as a learning opportunity as well for myself and related to the system. And engaging with families through focus groups, both for the entry plan as well as the development of the vision of a graduate. And then shared vision, I would point to the vision of a graduate as being kind of the biggest example of this work. And then I listed some of the groups that I've been developing connections with to build relationship between schools and the larger community. And that's the remainder of the evidence.
Are there any questions? Any comments? No? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank you.
That was very comprehensive and thorough, we'll say.
There's a lot that goes
Am I
on.
speaking for everybody with that one? Thank you very much. Excellent.
Thank you.
So, like I said, now that we have the evidence, we'll get our meetings. And then, like I said, I'm thinking, I'll talk to Jen. I'm thinking maybe if we could have our paperwork done into Jen by probably like maybe Halloween. That will give Jen probably a couple, that'll give, I think our meeting is November 15th, if I'm correct, right, Jen? Yeah, so maybe that'll give her a couple weeks to be able to kind of bring it all together versus giving it to her at the last minute. So we'll kind of see how the timeline goes, and we'll send out an email at some point. But I'm thinking probably like October 31st, November 1st, just to give her a couple weeks to be able to put it together. But sounds good. Thank you. I will now move on to 5.8, approved school attorney goals for 23-24. So this, just as a reminder, we had a subcommittee that looked at the evaluation of last year for our attorney, and also that same subcommittee looked at goals for 23-24 school year. So the subcommittee was Sarah, I, and Kathy. So we obviously did the evaluation part first, and then we took, I think it was 1 or 2 meetings to do the goals for this year. We kind of talked about it, and then we came back. We kind of all brainstormed about generally what we wanted the goals to be, and then we came back and actually developed the 3 goals. So the 3 goals are established contract management system. I'm not going to read it. It's in our packet. So that was a continuation goal of her first of last year, of year 2. And what that kind of is we had no system for tracking contracts. So Jane and Mo kind of worked on phase 1, so now we're up to phase 2. So that's a continuation. And then professional goal 2 is to increase the knowledge and skills in general education and special education law. I think that kind of goes without saying. Continuing to be educated and taking classes and stuff. And in general education and special education law. Last year's goal was for, I believe, only special education. This year, it's kind of a continuation, which obviously it would be. And then the third one is something kind of specific. It's the union negotiations. Work with the superintendent, school committee, and deputy director of school finances, develop and implement the district strategy during contract negotiations. Obviously, this is a negotiation year, so as we all know, that takes up a lot of the time. So we want to make sure that it goes as smooth as possible from a legal standpoint. So Jane is only involved in the legal standpoint. So that's kind of what we figured for a goal for this year, because that's going to be a lot of it, right? So so those are kind of the three of us kind of came up with them with obviously with Jane's input. But are there any questions about the goals, or everybody kind of good? Yeah, so can I get a motion?
Move to approve the school attorney goals for 2023-2024 as presented in tonight's materials.
I'll second.
Having a motion and seconded, voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to 6.1, approve FY25 capital improvement plan. Mike, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mike Lambros, Facilities Director. So this is a pretty extensive list this year, since we had the facilities condition assessment. So I don't know the best way to go about it if you want me to go project by project, but I do have them prioritized as seen for FY25 only. There's 39 projects, so I can give a brief description if anybody has questions, or if we want to, I don't know if anybody got any time to look it over before.
How do we want to do this? Do we want to go through all 39, or if people had a chance to look at them and kind of, yeah. And I'm sorry, I was kind of getting it up on my computer. So I'm sorry, so you prioritize them. So when the facilities assessment was done, there was what, like, say, high priority, which is like immediate. It was like, what, 0 to 3 to 5 years out, and then.
So facilities condition assessment was priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. Priority 1 was 1 to 3 years. Priority 2 is 2 to 5 years.
Okay,
3 to 5, and then 5 plus.
Yeah, 5 plus.
So what this has every priority 1 and any priority 2 over $60,000, and same with priority 1, anything over $60,000. There were 758 priority 1 projects. There's not 758 projects here.
Do you want me to go through every single one of them?
So
No.
What we did in the facilities department is we said, okay, of those priority 1s, what should be done year 1? So that's how you see. So as you go down the list, there are FY 26, 27, 28, and out. But we broke up and we came down to 39 projects. Not a single project on this list is not on the facilities condition assessment. We worked with him during the whole process, so he knew of projects on our radar anyway. We prioritize these by school, so I'll just go through this real quick.
So I guess my question before you even
Go ahead.
It's overwhelming. We're not going to do 39 projects.
Correct.
So as the head of facilities and the person who deals with our schools on a daily basis, when it comes to this type of stuff, have you prioritized, I assume you've prioritized these in the way, so number 1 is your number 1. Number 2 is your number 2?
Correct.
Okay.
So I can break down quickly how we prioritized, if that
that's
helps.
fine.
So you can see the column priority over on the right. We gave every school, we sorted by school. We gave every school a priority 1, a priority 2, a priority 3. So if a school had 9 priority 1 projects, they have a 1 through 9. So the high school has 1 through 9. Some schools only had 1 through 5. Then we sorted by all the 1s. So you see that left column is all the 1s, all the 2s. Then we sorted, to go a little farther, we sorted the priority 1s in order of how we deem them to be a priority of the 1s. So that's the 11, 12. It was supposed to be 1 dash, but 11, 12, 13, and then you go to the 2s, 21, 22. So that's how we arrived at our priority list. As you can see, all the accessibility and safety are up top, as they should be.
Okay. So, let me just think for a sec. Does anybody have any input? So what is your recommendation as far as, so you're recommending for this year, what would your recommendation be to put in for our capital improvement budget? All the ones, like down to what line, I guess, is what I would ask in the yellow. Sorry, like the first column over, like 1, 2, 3, like, so all the way down to number 6 is all priority ones.
So we brought over all 39 projects we deemed as out of the priority ones from the facilities condition assessment. Priority 1 really meant year 1, 2, or 3. These are the projects we deem should be done year 1, so FY25. This total list has 117 projects, and that's a 5-year plan. So it's extensive. However, as we saw on the plan, we're really playing catch up. This request is for $30.8 million. That's drastically more than last year. However, we have the backing of the facilities condition assessment to show that we're in need of $72.8 million of priority 1 repairs.
So you're thinking we should put in for all 39?
I would recommend so. It doesn't mean we're going to get everything.
No,
Just
I
means
mean,
I have to put together the presentation, which,
Right.
yeah,
So you
that's
think we should
fine.
put on for all 39 of those top priority ones?
Personally, yes.
Okay, I'm asking for your opinion. Your opinion means more than anybody else's, to be honest with you. Sarah, do you have any input?
I think it's important to use the conditions assessment that we
Paid for?
got a great amount of information from, demonstrate the need, demonstrate that we're playing catch up. We are not going to get all of the projects, but I think it's important to put the needs out and make sure everybody's aware of it. Mike will go into, it's a tremendous amount of work to put this forward and to, kind of develop and build all of the rationale, but have the projects. He and Kevin did a tremendous job prioritizing these based on their expertise, put it forward and see what makes it through, the next round of the process.
Yeah, just to add, the process is pretty elaborate. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's not just any project on here is just going to push right through. I mean, it starts in November, and it does not end until we present in typically April or May. There's 2 steps where we get together as department heads in the town, and we vote on projects. Then the next step is there's a full matrix that we have to go and give every category of every project. So it's in depth. So a project that the town departments don't really see fit probably won't even make it through to the final round of being presented. So the process does a really good job of filtering out what is needed and what's priority.
Okay.
Yeah, does anything stand out that anybody has questions? Because we can move stuff if anybody sees anything on this list.
So when I went through, I agree that compliance issues, safety issues have to be at the top of the list. And I don't think it's only the people involved with the school department who see this as a priority, because walking out and about in the community, I hear about what are we doing about safety all the time. So hopefully with these projects that deal with compliance and safety, the town will recognize the importance of them to ensure the safety of our students and staff in the buildings. Again, I wouldn't even know where to whittle it down or to change priorities. Last year was easier with fewer, and these seem to all be very important. It seems fair and equitable the way you filtered by building and priority to not just address one level over another. So I appreciate the time that went into that, and I think it's a good objective approach to trying to be equitable across our school buildings.
Thank you.
Go ahead, everybody, just jump on in.
Yeah, it's just a daunting list.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
And we didn't have any lists like this last year.
No. We didn't have the facilities condition assessment last year, so that's what's supporting this, the additional requests.
Mhm.
So that's the difference, really. We have the support this year. We had a better set of eyes, do a
Well,
very
and a
in-depth
completely
walkthrough.
objective.
Yeah.
It wasn't somebody internal. It was an objective third party, which is going to look at you about it's going to look at your buildings and give you the objective versus, well, maybe we can get away with it for another 3 years, and it's.
Yeah, Mike, again, it's a very thorough list. It's going to take time to move through it. Where is HVAC, meaning heating and cooling, in your mind? Our student liaisons, noted at the high school, the fluctuations, that can take place. So that's something I'd like a little bit more kind of insight into, where that is in the priority list. The facilities assessments, we had the workshop, wonderful, so for somebody that's, more about words and statements that has very little vocational skill, that being me, I have to go back and really look at this to kind of understand, what's going on and how you put things together, so on and forth, and, the good work that you're doing. But the high school is one of our newer buildings. It's obviously renovated when I was there, and it's been but meaning, how can we address HVAC of the many concerns that we have in the district at a school like, BHS, one of the newer buildings, and then just my concluding point, at some of the older buildings, much smaller, but BCIS, HVAC there, come to us, in the summer it's hot, so on and forth. It's a much smaller building. It's also a much older building. So how does that factor into your priorities?
So HVAC, so safety, security, accessibility, statutory. Those are priority ones, right? Those have to be what it's safety and security has to be priority one. Next is HVAC falls a lot. Obviously, you want to take care of the envelope of the building, but HVAC is the comfort and the air quality. Indoor air quality is huge right now. We as a district created indoor air quality committees for every school back in 2018. COVID kind of took over and brought the standard up a little higher. Everyone now knows about MERV ratings and CFM, and so
I learned more about HVAC during that period than I ever thought I would.
But it's especially, when it comes to just the typical flu every year, HVAC it is considered safety as well. It can be. And so that's the priority point. To touch on your question about increasing the comfort of the occupants in the school, our staff and students, that's always the goal. You want to provide them with fresh, safe, clean air, but you also want to increase the comfort. Nowadays, our Septembers are like our August of 20 years ago. When I was in school, I don't remember needing AC on October 4th. We had the AC on in every school that had it today. So that being said, so if you look at Project 6, BHS RTU replacement, that's an ongoing project. We're on phase 4 right now. There's 23 rooftop units on the high school, 22 on BIS. We've shifted over to BIS. That entire school is going to have brand new cooling within 2 phases. One phase will be happening this coming summer, 24. The elementary schools all have new unit. The previous director, Dave Kanyak, he switched out all of the unit ventilators at the elementary schools. He was phasing that in. There's not air conditioning in those. Some of them are compatible with air conditioning. If that's a route we want to go, it's not a priority 1, but that's more of a priority 2, 3. It's air conditioning it's not a necessity. It's not heat. It's comfort. But once you get to that point, I think, yeah, it needs to be looked at. We had that heat day, 2 days in September, and the superintendent and I discussed addressing, we're going to put a fan in every classroom. That's just going to come as part of the classroom makeup. And also we're looking to, long-term, we want to make sure every school has at least one larger space with air conditioning for the students to get to. A good space to think of is the gym, the cafeteria, spaces that the students go every day that they can, when we have a 95-degree day, they can get out. Some of those projects are prioritized here in the HVAC, in these projects laid out. But that is, we are looking at improving the comfort of staff and students as well as safety.
So I just have one question for, and I'm not saying put it anywhere different, I'm just asking. So number 28, which is High West, the roadway mill repave. So I know we had talked, I don't remember what meeting it was, I have no idea, they all blend together, but we had talked about how the preschool was going to get repaved, the back part, because it was dirt, correct? Was that, I forget the conversation we had, but wasn't there something going to be going on there, and the sidewalks were also going to be looked at too? What?
Yeah, so
what is that compared to this, I guess, is my question.
This is repaving the parking of Hyannis West.
Oh, just the
where
parking
where the
lot.
staff park,
Okay.
which is in okay condition. I mean,
Yeah.
not okay condition. It does need repair. It's not a safety issue. That's why it's not up on number
Right.
one. If you remember the past 2 years, we have a $350,000 ask in 22 and 23 to ask for paving. We actually just walked the school with the architect back in mid to early September. They're starting the design of that project to pave the ELC. And we're treating that as a campus. So we're gonna do the sidewalks for High West, the ELC parking out back.
But that's already in the works.
That's already being,
okay.
yeah, so that's not included
That's
here.
fine. I saw the High West and the paving, and I'm like, wait a minute, we had I think that was when you and I walked, we went and we're looking at High West, and we would show me different projects, and that's when you told me about the parking in the back, how it was going to be paved and stuff like that. And I just thank you. That's all I needed to know. I didn't know if that was this project or if that was something different. So that's already in the works, and that stuff's already
Correct.
being done.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have what are we thinking as far as, do we want to approve all 39, or what are we to send for? Not approve, but we don't approve anything. All we do is just approve it at our level, saying all 39 are important, and then it goes through a very exhaustive citizens group. The town manager is very involved in it, obviously. This is just our part of it, and then every department puts in their stuff, and then they, like I said, it goes through, what's the name of the comprehensive citizens? Yeah, it goes through, there's a
I don't
bunch of
know the
citizens
acronym,
that
but yes.
look at it from the taxpayer. They take all of the different departments' capital improvement asks, and they rate them, and then that goes to the town manager. So this is just the beginning of the process. So what do we want to do? What do we want to put forward from the school committee?
If I can, sorry, just for reference, the DPW submitted 80 some odd projects last year. So.
Oh, so 39 is not a lot.
No, that's
for us.
kinda-
That's a lot. Like for me, I'm like, oh my
yes,
God! Like
yes.
all 8 years on the school committee, I don't think I've done this many.
Correct. So just for reference, all the departments do submit, because we may not even get to present all these in.
They may not make it through round one.
We may, exactly.
So with that in mind, if there's no harm in asking,
right?
And clearly, we have facilities that need attention.
Peter,
it was going to be my question. I was thinking, like, if we propose 39, are we like a laughing stock? Like,
well, that's what. But
like, come on, you're not going to get.
Like I said,
what are you doing?
I don't think it's ever been more than like probably maybe 10.
And
5 to 10 usually.
If I'm reading these priorities, they get priority 3, 4, 5 that we're presenting, and how important is a priority 5, I guess, if I'm looking at.
No, these are all priority ones. This is 39 out of 179 priority ones. Is that what you said?
Correct. The priority that you're reading, the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, that's out of the priority 1s for these schools for year 1.
Okay.
That's the
I'm
priority
saying-
by
okay, yeah,
school,
yeah,
sorry.
okay, gotcha.
So I would recommend, you put a lot of time and effort into this, and as I said, it was a very objective approach to it. I think we presented as is. I don't think anybody receiving this information would be thinking we're expecting to get every single project approved, but they can at least see the extensiveness of the list, especially since the taxpayers paid a lot of money to have the facilities looked at, and this is the end result. If you show a snippet of that result and then you come back every year, it's like brand new to them. Not, this was the comprehensive study, this is the result of the comprehensive study. You've prioritized what is important for the school district. I don't see any reason to disagree with the way you've prioritized. You can easily filter and count out the 15 plus HVACs or accessibility. They're going to be able to use this to make very educated decision and to prioritize spending across the town. So I would say we approve it as presented, as what the school department needs, and let it go through the process.
I agree. I'd say put all 179 and show them what their school. Show them what their school facilities are. It is what it is. It's not us. It's not you. It's some independent person from Connecticut came in and said, "This is where your school buildings are at, Barnstable." It is what it is. It's not my problem. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It is what it is. So why are we hiding that our schools need what they need? Sometimes that's the worst thing you can do. Because then you know what? If we hadn't been doing this forever and hiding it, then you know what? We wouldn't have 179 things on our list.
So to piggyback on that, this 5-year plan is on the school's website on the facilities tab. So this 5-year plan that's in front of us, not just the 39, the 117, will go on the school's website. And that's an $83 million
top
request.
Mountain, and this is what it's at. So it is what it is.
Agreed.
Having said that, any other conversation? No? Can I get a motion? Or do we have to do a motion?
Yep.
Yes.
Move to approve the fiscal year 25 capital improvement plan as presented in tonight's materials.
I'll second.
Having a motion seconded, voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Actually, any abstentions? Sorry, none? Okay. Moving on to 6.2, approve substitute school nurse rate increase. Sarah? No, I'm sorry.
Mary Beth Shea is joining us.
I
this
saw her
evening.
walking down as I looked up. Hi, welcome.
Good evening. I recognize you've been sitting there for 3.5 hours, so I will try to be brief. So as the Director of Social Emotional Learning and Student Services, one of the programs that falls under my domain is the Health and Wellness Department. So I'm here this evening to share with you that we are having great difficulty finding substitute nurses. We have 14 full-time nurses and 1 LPN across 9 different school sites. And whenever one of them's out, it becomes very difficult to find somebody to fill in. And that includes not only illnesses, but if there's field trips or if they're out for professional development or covering other events. And I think there's really 3 reasons this is extremely difficult to find. Is unlike classroom substitutes, substitute nurses have to be registered and licensed. They have to keep up with their professional development, with their CPR, with their first aid. So it's different than classroom teachers. And so there's a smaller pool to pull from. Secondly, they have to be willing to walk into a building that they're not in every day and treat a wide range of medical needs. This can include toileting, tube feeding, providing insulin injections and monitoring diabetes, triaging illnesses and injuries across a wide range of students. And again, it's 9 different buildings that they're going into. So even if you have a very qualified person, they're not in the same building every day. So that's a big ask. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, and the reason that I'm here, is that we are not competitive with our neighbors. Our neighboring towns are paying a higher rate. In the proposal that you have in front of you, you can see that Alicia Bryant, who oversees the nursing department, did a survey of our neighboring districts, and she found that 5 of them paid more than we do. We pay our substitute nurses $170 a day. So that breaks it down to $24.28 an hour is what we're paying people for the responsibility that we're giving them. Dennis Yarmouth, which is next door, pays $35 an hour. So they're they're $10 more an hour. Mashpee also pays more. So out of the 6 towns that she has in the packet surveyed, 5 of them paid more than we did. And also you have to keep in mind that these registered nurses who are willing to substitute are also able to go to hospitals nearby and get a higher per diem rate. So in order to remain competitive and to fill this very important need that we have to cover our health offices in our 9 schools, we're asking respectfully that you honor our request to raise the substitute pay. And we're proposing that it goes up to be competitive with Dennis Yarmouth, which is $35 an hour. And we're also recommending that instead of it being a per diem rate, that we do an hourly rate. That way, if we have to hire somebody just to come in for a half-day field trip, we can pay them just for those 4 hours instead of a full day. Do you have any questions?
Okay. Any questions? Andre?
No, thank you, Mary Beth. And again, to know that we are 5th, there's 5 or 6 other districts that we're behind. Coming from my educational background, I know that we are not behind 5 or 6 other districts in terms of our salaries for educators. We don't trail. So, again, the importance of this, we should be closer to the top.
Thank you.
I just have one question, and it's not for you. It's either for Chris or for Sarah. Can we afford this? I assume we can, but I just want to make sure that within our budget we can, with how many subs, I don't know how many nursing, like how many days would we need a substitute nurse, and can we afford, how much would that kind of go up? And
So it's not as neat and clean of a proposal as some of the other ones where the funding mechanism is from vacancies or whatever that we have. But within the scope of the large budget that we have, we'll make sure that we come in within your expected budget and not exceed our expenses. But it will create an increased cost. And sub costs are.
we know how much that costs, how many subs we needed last year? That's okay. You can get back to me. That's okay.
I think we have that number. I don't think I have it at my fingertips, but
Yeah.
Alicia ran some
I think the
analysis.
estimate, I mean, it's only an estimate because you really don't
No,
know
that's
how
fine.
many times somebody's going to be out.
Right.
But the estimate was like based on last year's numbers.
Yeah, that's what I
It
want.
was probably about $9,000.
Oh, okay. So it's only going to be, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be like, yeah, okay. That's all set. Any other questions?
I can't recall, and I could look it up, but do we use a separate line item for this type of substitute, or does that fall under all of our subs? Okay, thank you.
Having said that, can I get a motion?
Move to approve the substitute school nurse pay rate to $35 per hour.
I'll second.
Having a motion seconded, voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good night. 6.3, approve English as a second language administrative assistant, .5 FTE position.
Thank you. So this is a request from the EL department to have a new position, which would be a half-time administrative assistant. We currently have 2 EL coordinator positions and a vacant department head position, which would assist in providing funding for this. Our growing EL department and these vacancies are creating some additional pressures for the director. And some administrative tasks are more difficult to attend to. And there's quite a bit of paperwork that comes with the EL department, but we do not have an administrative assistant to support. So the request is for a half-time AA, and again, the 10-month position, standard job description with budgeting coming from the vacancies that we're currently experiencing.
Any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Move to approve a .5 full-time equivalent position for an administrative assistant for the English as a second language department.
Second.
Having a motion and seconded, voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to approve speech language pathologist coordinator position.
So this is
Sarah.
the position that would coincide with the job description that you approved previously.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Move to approve the position of a speech language pathologist coordinator.
I'll second.
Having a motion and seconded, voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Approve pay rate increase for the instructor for the certified nurse program. Kristen.
So one of our programs at the high school, the CNA program, Certified Nurse Assistant Program, has an instructor who leads the class in collaboration with a licensed educator. She is currently paid $45 an hour and has requested a pay increase. We're looking to increase her rate to $52 an hour. Based on some research, the average pay for this type of role is around $50 an hour. Given her experience in the program, I'd like to recommend the $52 an hour. This position is paid for through the Cape Cod Health Care Grant, and she works 19 hours per week. This is all in your packet, sorry. And so this pay increase would result in an increased overall for the year, about $4,500, which can be absorbed through the grant. This particular role, to be a CNA instructor, you have to be a licensed RN, have teaching experience. It is difficult to find someone to fill that role with those both of those skills. And so we are asking if you would approve that increase so that we can continue to have this staff member within our program. It's been very successful. We have a lot of students that go through this program, and actually they then go and work at Cape Cod Hospital. So it really is a very self-fulfilling program.
Any questions? Comment? Yeah.
So at the community college level, we have the same situation where nursing faculty, due to the nature of where they are employed and how much they make out in industry, it's very difficult to attract qualified people for the position. So this is not out of line with what educators in the nursing field area would be requesting.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Move to approve a pay rate increase for the instructor for the certified nurse program to $52 per hour.
I'll second.
Having a motion and seconded, voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And I'm going to abstain. So it is a 3-0 with one abstention. Moving on to 6.6, approve FY grants, gifts, and donations. We have a list in our packet. Do we have any questions for Chris? Or seeing none, can I get a motion?
Move to approve fiscal year '24 grants, gifts, and donations as presented in tonight's materials.
Second.
Having a motion seconded. This is a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to 6.7, approve accounts payable warrant FY24 warrant number 14. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve accounts payable warrant FY24 warrant number 14, the amount of $475,061.07.
Second.
Having a motion seconded. This is a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it 3-1. 7.1, executive session to approve school committee executive session minutes of September 6, 2023, to discuss strategy and preparation for negotiations with the Barnstable Teachers Association and to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. So I move to go into executive session. Let me start over. Move to go into executive session, not to reconvene in open session, to approve the school committee executive session minutes for September 6, 2023, to discuss strategy and preparation for negotiations with the Barnstable Teachers Association and to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. Can I get a second?
Second.
Having a motion and second, this is a roll call vote. Peter?
Yes.
Andre?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Chair is a yes, passes unanimously. That will conclude the public portion of our meeting, and have a good night. Unanimous.